Okay, we are getting ready to start our show tonight. If all past Hall of Fame inductees could start coming up to the other end of the stage behind us. And the new class of 2023. They want to do a big group picture over here on the red carpet. Again, all past attendees, if you've been inducted in the BMX Hall of Fame, and the new class of 2023, they need your picture over here on the red carpet. And then you guys are going to line up behind the stage, and we're going to do a quick introduction in front of everybody. So again, all you Hall of Famers, the gate has dropped. Everybody else is in the first corner. We're waiting for you on the red carpet. Stanley Robinson, the first one to show up. Look at this. He is ready and excited for the night. Again, all past and tonight's 2023 class over here on the red carpet for a group picture. The vote is in. Tracer Finn wins best dress of the night. Second place, Bubba Harris's wife. Donnie Robinson, we're waiting on you over here. Any other Hall of Famers over here for a group picture? And the 2023 class. They said Donnie. We're still missing Donnie. We got Mike Dominguez, Greg Grubbs coming up, B.A. Anderson in the house. It is kind of his house, so I guess he's like the resident boss here. He cannot drive a scooter very well, though. I have realized trying to get all these old BMXers lined up. Have you ever tried to herd cats? It's totally the same. Totally the same. Okay, welcome to the 2023 BMX Hall of Fame induction. Thank you all for being here. We are going to reintroduce all the past Hall of Fame inductees and then the 2023 class. And then I'm going to hand it over to Cash Matthews, is going to be your MC for the night. So I just want to say, thanks for having me. My name's Tim Strange. I've been a lifelong BMXer. BMX has brought so much to my life, like many of you here. I met my wife through BMX. I think good parents gives you a good life. BMX brings you a great life. It teaches you to rely on yourself. You get passed in the corner, you can't blame the quarterback. You can't. BMX gives you a skill in life that nothing else can bring you in sports. I'm just say BMX is the best sport in the world. So BMX has brought a lot to me. I was the everyday man that I hardly ever made any mains. I looked up to all you guys in the magazines. You guys in this room tonight are my, who's the guy with the shoe? The basketball player? Michael Jordan. Yeah, that guy does play sports matches. You guys in this room are my Michael Jordan, along with many other people here. BMX brought me a work ethic, and I build hot rods for a living. I had a TV show for 2 years. I am in 2 Hall of Fames for the hot rod and custom car industry. So now I know exactly what these guys feel like getting in the Hall of Fame and in the past. So again, I'm Tim Strange. I am honored to be here with you guys tonight. Let's get the program started. They're supposed to stay in an order. We'll see if anybody can. Class of 2008, Mr. Bernie Anderson, from BMX dad to track operator, Lone Star BMX, to becoming the owner of ABA, the man responsible for starting the National BMX Hall of Fame, our chairman, Bernie Anderson. I'm just going to say, I'm not worthy. Not worthy. Thank you, sir, for what you have done for the sport. The Hardesty Stadium here is second to none, man.
No, I didn't do that. My son done all of that.
Well, you raised that boy, so you had something to do with that.
Hell yeah.
So thank you very much for what you've done.
You're welcome. I enjoy it.
Stairs. You want to go that way? I told him exit left, and he says, I'm going this way. He says his table's closer. Don't argue with that man. Class of 2009, Eddie Fiola. GT, king of the state parks, designer of the Pro Farmer, and author of his autobiography titled When I Was King. Please welcome Eddie Fiola. I need to order one of those books. I don't have those books. And then I see they're getting ready to film like a movie documentary, something about you.
Yeah, so they said on the book it wasn't informational enough, so they wanted to do a documentary. So now the guys are working on a documentary. We've done a bunch of interviews with a bunch of guys, and we actually interviewed Steve Van Doren, Tony Hawk, Ed Helms, bunch of guys. So,
are you going to play yourself, or are they going to get a good-looking guy?
They're going to get somebody taller.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Eddie. And I told him today when I interviewed him, I go, every once in a while on social media, he didn't know it was a thing. I do a hashtag and post a picture I've seen other people doing. Fiola Friday. It's a thing. It's a thing. Thank you, Eddie. Class of 2018. I'm going to say he was always like the rock star of the sport. Bob Morales, one of the hardest working men in the bicycle business. Did you write this yourself? Founder of the AFA, Dyno, Auburn, Core, and currently running brake lever brand ASV. Give a huge Tulsa welcome, Bob Morales.
Thank you.
So, real quick, you've been around the sport forever. You started all the freestyle stuff. You've been a part of bike brands. Let's tell everybody what your son is doing. And a lot of people know your sport and what you're doing, you know, the parts industry and everything. Your kid's doing some pretty rad stuff, too.
Yeah, my son Dane raced BMX for a number of years, did really well. And but he was also doing motocross, and so now he's going full-time motocross, wants to go pro. And he's actually over in Ponca City right now racing a national.
That is awesome. Bob Morales, everybody. Thank you. These are in random order. I thought the new class was coming at the end, but she said, I'm coming through and getting my spotlight right now. Gail Webb, going to be inducted here in the 2023 class. It says, give a round of applause. You're already doing that. The raddest mom on the planet and founder of Kids Are Number One.
Because kids are number one. And love them all. And this is amazing.
So I said, reading all the bike magazines, is I got people, skateboarders, and Eddie Fiola, they got their start riding in your trick shows. And I learned today, something, I paid attention. Only 2 people in history have been inducted in the Skateboard Hall of Fame and the BMX Hall of Fame. You and the guy that did Vans tennis shoes. So, wow.
Thank you very much, Steve Van Doren. And I'm just so, I'm honored to be here so much. And I just want to thank everybody. And
without people like you, the sport would not be what it is today.
Well, you know, it's all about that. It's all about reaching young people. In fact, I don't even care how old they are, you know, from 1 to 101. Just get out there and never give up and follow those goals and dreams, and that's what we're about.
Thank you very much. And, of course, BMXers, we never grow up mentally. I'm still 12 in my head, so you can go that way, or if you want to take the steps, you can take the ramp. A real MC of the night, Cash Matthews, class of 2006. Again, I think he wrote this card. A living legend in Oklahoma BMX scene, now in charge of the Oklahoma and Georgia State Hall of Fames. It's Cash Matthews. When he comes to the red carpet, I thought, you always told me you were the governor of Oklahoma, but I found out that was crap.
I'm the dog catcher.
The dog catcher. Hey, just like Fast and Furious, somebody's got to order the pizza.
That's right.
Cash Matthews, I'm going to hand the mic over to you in just a little bit.
Thank you, sir.
Legends among legends, class of 1986, Stu Thompson, ABA's first #1 pro, and still one of our sport's most iconic and recognizable names, Stompin' Stu, and a retired police officer. So thank you again for your service.
Thank you so much. Hey, I was right back there. I was like, 2023 minus 1987 equals 37 years.
If you're pretty, you don't have to do math.
Well, you know, that's why I got a phone. It tells me what to do.
So you're still very competitive in your everyday thing. You just recently got a 3rd place at something that was very big. Mighty Mo's cruise ship. He got 3rd place in the belly flop contest.
I like to call it the bellyless flop contest, but
a lot of us are very jealous of your bellyless.
That's okay. I mean, but, you know, Mighty Mo, he's putting on a great cruise. If you want to go on a great family vacation that's kind of like BMX-oriented, but it's a BMX pit party away from the track, it's the best thing you can do. It's so much fun. But, yeah, they need it.
Did you get a check from Mo for this plug?
No, but I did get a 3rd place in the belly flop contest and a sore stomach.
I make sure you add that to your Wikipedia page. Yeah. Stompin' Stu, everybody. Class of 1991, the human dragster, Tommy Brackens. He's just as fast on a GPV as he is on a 20-inch. That's why they call him the human dragster. Welcome, Tommy Brackens. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. How you guys doing tonight? Good.
So me being a hot rod guy, always been a lifelong hot rodder and BMXer. I remember the interview they did in, I think it was BMX Action, and had a picture of your El Camino.
71 El Camino, small black 350, 355.
Allegedly, say allegedly, you can't get in trouble. You street raced that thing and it had nitrous on it. Is this true?
No.
Allegedly.
No.
Okay, that's right. Somebody listening that shouldn't. Oh, Stu was a cop. We can't talk about this. So when you rode for GT, Gary Turner, big drag race guy, had alcohol funny car. Did you ever try to work it into your contract to take the alcohol funny car down the drag strip?
Well, we had a little bet, and he had told me that if I would have won this race, he'd let me take it down the strip. I wound up winning the race, and I said, "Hey, I'd like to take your car down." And he like, "Nope, Rich Long would absolutely kill me if you wreck this car." And I say, "If I wreck this car, I don't think he'll mind, because I don't think I'll be even living."
So somebody, do you have Gary Turner's phone number? Let's call that bitch right now.
Yeah, I got it, but I'm not calling him.
And his funny car is called the Peddler. That's the coolest thing. So Tommy Brackens, everybody. Kevin Jackson, class of 1996. One of the few Canoga cycle team members who went on to become a factory Schwinn superstar, Hollywood stunt coordinator, Kevin Jackson. How you doing tonight?
Dude, this is awesome. This is too cool for school.
And I interviewed you on the red carpet. You were actually in that old school Schwinn commercial. Was that right or not?
Yeah, I was one of those guys.
Remember that?
Yeah, I was.
We've all hit our head a lot.
Exactly. Just a great opportunity. Number one, to be here. Number two, to be involved in BMX and what BMX has done for me and the growth of my life, my career. You can't do anything better. This is an awesome moment.
Well, thanks for being here, everybody. It's Kevin Jackson. Coming up next, the vote was in. He's the best dressed BMXer in the house tonight. Class of 2014, Tracer Finn. From jumping pianos on the Las Vegas trip to being the BMX team manager for Specialized Bikes, Las Vegas legend, Tracer Finn. Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
And I guess you were doing this up here because Cash couldn't do it last year. They called me last minute and I couldn't get here because I've always wanted to help do this. And I hear you did a great job last year.
You know what? Proud to do it.
Tracer Finn, everybody. '23 inductee tonight. Representing his good friend, freestyle mentor, and Skyway teammate of inductee tonight, Dave Vanderspeck. Please welcome Maurice Meyer. So how does this feel tonight, accepting this for your friend? I know I've got goosebumps.
It's all kinds of feelings. It's amazing, this place. It's so... cathartic to just have Vander represented this way and have our entire situation validated. I remember back in those days riding out to the park one day and going, you know what? Like, I think I'm a freestyler. Like, this is a different thing and it's happening and I'm going to do it. And, Dave was there and we were all doing it just because we wanted to. And he was a huge force in that, and, we all were inspired by him and had a lot of good times. And he made a mark on freestyle in a very short time.
Definitely. So thanks for being here for him. And forever in my mind, if somebody says, I can do a bunny hop tabletop, and I'm like, you can't do it like Vander did. Class of 2012, Olympian and Olympic medalist Donnie Robinson. Inducted as one of the 4 members of the first ever Team USA Beijing Olympic squad. I'm sidetracked. The kid with more heart than any other racer we've known. Let's hear it for DR number 10. So you were pointing at something over here. This is Bubba's thing. What's the technical name for that? Banner? Are you ahead of Bubba? You look like you're ahead of Bubba right there.
Always in back. Actually, I beat him that race. I high-load him in the last turn, and we had a photo finish. I hung on to that win for a long, long time. But, yeah, I was telling most people I'm always behind Bubba. So.
Well, you didn't want Bubba behind you.
No, never.
Yeah. So, Donnie Robinson, again, tell everybody I interviewed you. The best thing, a lot of these people owe this same saying from BMX. What is it?
How far can two wheels take you?
That's right. Donnie Robinson, everybody. Did not win Best Dressed of the Night. Class of 2007. He's wearing a Hot Rod shirt. Look, you were a Hot Rodder? He's no, I stole it from my buddy. Greg Grubbs, would you expect anything less? This bespectacled pro racer for Redline and Hyper single-handedly put Nebraska BMX on the map. The grubby one, Greg Grubbs. How you doing?
You had to bust on me. I was going to try and inconspicuously get by without this monkey suit on, but now you've called me out.
I have an SCTA shirt at home, too, so we're bros.
Well, I like I said, I told you earlier, I stole this from my roommate, so I have no idea what I'm wearing.
So there's some great guys in our history, past Hall of Famers, that do the Dirty Knobs podcast. We're going to plug Mike Miranda, Eric Carter, and James Vicentes. And you were on there. Does anybody listen to that podcast or watch the YouTube? Did you get any of his interview? His internet kept coming out because there is no internet in Nebraska.
Yeah.
No, I lived in Illinois. I could say that.
No, it's fine. It's fine. And typical Miranda, I called him the second it ended and asked if we could do it again. And, of course, he did not ever call me back. So, yeah, typical Miranda, right? So.
Oh, I wish he was here to interview tonight.
Yeah, Mike does what Mike does. So.
And we love him for it. Greg Grubbs, everybody. The first Hall of Famer of the night to ditch me on the red carpet, and I had to go chase him down. 2002 class inductee, Travis Chiprez. Robinson and Mongoose factory ace, who is currently working for Hyper Bicycles. Please welcome Travis. So, as a past Hall of Fame inductee, and you raced way back when, and now you're still in the industry, part of Hyper Bicycles, what do you think is the biggest change in the sport when you look at this crazy super hill over here?
Oh, damn. I think they need to be
putting you on the spot.
Yeah, you are, but it needs to be a 20-man gate. No.
I get nervous. I race intermediate now. I get nervous when there's more than three of us because of, the weight limit on the gate.
Damn. Yeah. No, I just think it's pretty cool. I just think it keeps.
So as we're talking about that, BMX historian, who come up with 8-rider gates? That's a question.
Yeah, I wonder too.
Because in the days, we had some ones in the Midwest, there were 10-man gates before they put a real gate in, and then they cut it down to 8.
Yeah. I wish I'd been able to race this 10-man gate.
You didn't know there was going to be a test, did you?
No, I didn't. I thought you were going to drag this into Hell Track or something, with the roll-in.
I'm not that smart to think that far ahead. Travis Chiprez, everybody. The man that does so much for the sport around here is the curator of the museum, 2010 inductee, Gork. Former editor of BMX Action and BMXer magazines, now the full-time curator of the National BMX Hall of Fame Museum in Tulsa. Welcome, Gork.
Thank you.
So how do you like Oklahoma?
I'm digging it. It's almost been a complete year, just a few weeks short of a year that we've moved here. I moved here with my wife and son, and, we're digging it.
I think Gork has the raddest job now in BMX.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. What do you guys think?
And give him a round of applause. I've been here 8 to 10 times in this museum. I come in town for other stuff. I always go. Sometimes I call them and get in when it's still closed. There's always something new. So thank you for what you're doing for the sport. And the Hall of Fame Museum is incredible. Thank you, Gork. New induction, class of 2023, is Renny Roker. Tonight, representing his father, Renny, the founder of Jag BMX and promoter of the first ever World Championships. Please welcome his son, Kelly Roker. You're trying to get away from. See that? He's trying to get away. So I talked to you out there on the red carpet. Not everybody heard the red carpet interview. So what's this moment feel like? I knew the Jag BMX, the ESPN series. First time I ever seen a pro race, because I didn't go to a lot of nationals as a kid, was the ESPN series. I remember it was, I think, the Vegas race. I think Greg Hill won, and it like changed my life. I was like, oh my God, I want to go see pros race in person. But he's done so much other stuff in his career outside the BMX world. But as a son, what does this moment feel for you representing your father here tonight?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for even being here. You know, that shows support right there in itself. But for that moment, for him, it was just being able to expand the sport and really giving it that extra push it needed at that time to open the doors for everybody else, and just makes me proud today.
That's awesome. Thanks for being here representing your father. Kelly Roker, everybody. A new inductee for the night for the class of 2023, Stanley Robinson. Many of us have been waiting for this for decades, to see this man make it onto the Hall of Fame stage. Give a huge round of applause to him. The inventor of the two-footed start, Stanley Robinson. When you did that, did everybody look at you like you were an alien? Like, what is this guy doing?
Well, it started out, I was in a semi, and I was younger. And I got up, and I had to get in the main event. And so when I got there, my dad held my tire, and I just got up on the bike. And the gate went, so I made it to the main with Brent Patterson, was in the Stockton Delta track. So then we practiced that day and came back and got in the main, and I just stood there. And the gate dropped, and I took a third against the pros then, and I was younger. And like the first month was maybe like 5 going. And then the next month it was maybe 10 doing it. And then that whole year maybe about 100 did it. And Van Nuys, Scott Bryhoff did it with Perry Kramer and Bobby Cenas, and it got hooked to Van Nuys. And then after that, and I thought it was, blowing carburetor on a race car. And it just kept going to year and year and year and year. And I come back, and I've seen you guys, open up USA BMX, and they were still doing it around the world. And I was like, man, do they know who I am? And then I seen the deductions of 2000, was it 19 before COVID came? Richie said, Stanley Robinson invented the two-pedal start. I was like, wow, all over the world. And I seen like 900 motos in a week, and 800 motos in the same week, and like 500 or 600 motors, quarter semis. Never seen nothing like it. And all over the world, they just kept doing the two-pedal start, and I was like.
So now that you watch it, you see it on the TV, on the Olympics, do you sit there when they start and it's like, that's right, I did that. Stanley Robinson, everybody. Thank you, sir. Our class of 2023, going on 50 years of nonstop BMX participation. She is one of the key volunteers responsible for Florida's thriving BMX scene. Give it up for Alice Bixler. How you hey, slow down. How you doing tonight?
I'm having fun. I'm okay now because I had a BMX drink.
Should you be driving?
I'm good at driving. Wild or not wild.
So I interviewed her on the red carpet. Some of you may not have heard, but we had a moment. We've known her forever. We always hugged her when we were at the tracks. She got a little teary-eyed, and she didn't know her plaque was up on the wall yet up there. And I was like, Alice, you're already up on the wall here. And she's like, what? And I didn't get my phone out quick enough to see the twinkle in her eye and the tears as she sat there and looked up to see her Hall of Fame plaque on the wall. Was something I'll never remember as a BMX person. So congratulations on getting inducted in the Hall of Fame tonight. Don't drink and drive, kids. Don't drink and drive. Class of 2023, tonight representing their father, Mike Redmond, the famed BMX announcer, track operator, manufacturer of Redmond bikes. Please welcome Redbone's daughter, Austin, and son Talon, getting inducted tonight. So, okay, I'm going to try to get through this without getting choked up. So this is a recent burn for us of losing him. What a great man this guy was. What does it feel like? I wish he could be here because, man, his speech would be epic. Wouldn't it? Just think of his speech. We'd be here till tomorrow.
It means a lot to us to be here and receive this award for him, but I just know how much he would have appreciated it. He's looked forward to this for a long, long time. So,
yeah, I think this was way past due, too. It's sad how we do it. My first conversation ever with him at the track that I remember in the last, 15 years was about Rottweilers. Is that weird? Because we both had Rottweilers at the time. And then we ran a team for years, and we had a kid that was very good. We put a lot into this person, and they quit right Grands. And I actually reached out to your dad, and I was crushed at this kid because we didn't have our own kids. So we sponsored BMX kids to be around, kids' lives. And I reached out to your dad because I know that he'd been through all these kids and everything. And I go, Mike, what do you do in this situation? My heart's just ripped out. And he says, kids come and go in BMX. You realize you're part of their life forever. It's a community service. Just know that you were part of her life. And see, I'm getting choked up. So I want to thank your dad for some conversations that me and him have had, and we all miss him. Congratulations, and thanks for being here tonight. Yeah, I'm just a big softie. You'll see me cry every once in a while. The worst interview on the red carpet goes to Mike Dominguez tonight. He is a man of very few words, 2011 inductee, one of the most winningest freestyle contest riders of all time, the one and only Mike Dominguez. How you doing, Mike?
Very good, thank you.
I give him a hard time because I've always been a hot rod guy, and it's like the coolest picture ever, and it's on your section in there. It was a Nissan Square convertible mini truck with the bikes in the back, forever burned in my memory.
Yes.
It's very cool.
Thank you.
So I have a lot of weird things and connections to BMX. There was a time, I think, that you left a team and you rode a skate park competition without a jersey on, and you rode in jeans and a button-up shirt.
Yeah, I did. Yep, Upland. Yep.
In Upland. And me and my buddies all went to the mall to Chess King to try to buy that same shirt. It's like, we got to have that black and gray striped shirt like Dominguez has got. And my one buddy found it, and he would race all the state races in that shirt.
You're close to wearing it now.
Almost, yeah. So you inspired in multiple ways that you had no idea you did.
Right on. I love to hear it. Mike
Dominguez, everybody. Whichever way you want. Going into Class Hall of Fame tonight of 2023. He is currently the freestyle coach for Team USA. You might know him better as Harold's lifelong sponsored multi-time medalist at the X Games Dew Tour, Ryan Nyquist. So I told you earlier on the red carpet, whenever we'd watch you on TV, it wasn't if Nyquist was going to win, it's what's new banger he's pulling out of his arsenal today.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I don't know if it was always that way for me, but it was, a lot of contests, a lot of just trying to just one up the competition and come up with something new. And, I mean, that's the beauty of freestyle is it's kind of whatever you can create in your mind and make a reality.
And I told him earlier on the red carpet, when I first read the first little thing about being tied to the Olympics, and I'm like, yes, Ryan Nyquist going the Olympics. Then he was like, coach, and I was like, he said, for just a little bit, you thought about trying to qualify, didn't you?
I did. I gave it an honest shot, but it was just a dollar late and a day short. So, my contingency plan was, I started working on the women's side and coaching them, and kind of had my foot in that door. And when it didn't work out so well for me, I was like, well, those that can't do coach or teach. I think that's the saying. So I was like, all right, well, let's do it. And not a bad plan B.
Yeah, that is awesome. You've had an amazing career. You're getting in the Hall of Fame tonight, and thank you for the support in the next generation, Ryan Nyquist. I have the last go. He's not even waiting to be called out. Bubba's just snapping and coming to the front. We got tonight's Hall of Fame inductee, one of the many BMX icons being inducted tonight. your 3-time ABA #1 pro and UCI world champion, Bubba Harris. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I don't know if you noticed that his wife won second best dressed tonight. I embarrassed her earlier. So.
Yeah, she's pretty hot, huh?
Bubba's had a great career, signature bikes, traveled around the world, looked up by many. He's still working with generations and being a good role model for the next generation of kids, whether they race or not. So I have to confess something to you, Bubba. All those years you were running for your titles and stuff, we're sitting there at the Grands. Okay. And you know what I always hoped for?
Oh, probably for me to get beat.
For you to blow your starting gate. I was like, if Bubba blows his gate, you're going to see corners, elbows, and I can't do it, but pretend Redbone is here. Oh no, here comes Bubba! Here comes Bubba. And the best corners, I feel bad that I always loved it when your gate sucked because, oh man, you're going to see some magic out there, so I apologize.
Oh, that's good, man. I always loved coming from the back. It was fun.
Tonight's Hall of Fame inductee, Bubba Harris. So, okay, I've been Tim Strange. I've had a blast tonight. Thank you for taking the time on the red carpet. Thank you, USA BMX, for letting me be here. He's been doing the Hall of Fame induction here for 38 years, I think. The guy in charge, the mayor, the president of the Hardesty Foundation, I don't know, you gave me something to read that I lost. B.A. Anderson. Enjoy the night. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
How about Tim Strange? So I will make it quick so we can get to the real ceremony tonight, our inductees. But I just wanted to thank you guys for coming, welcoming you to the Hall of Fame Museum. And I am just so happy that everyone is here to see this. This has been a dream for USA BMX and for the sport for many years. But once again, just thank you guys for coming. And I do need to thank Jennifer Gillette for everything she's done. Obviously, Shannon and Gork as well. The Hall of Fame and the museum is their baby. And our Tulsa people, thank you, Shane. Thank you, Scott, for putting all this together. Thank you, Ray, for everything you guys have done. This is a great venue, and a lot of us are still in Arizona, but we are anxious to get here, and you guys did a great job putting this on. So I don't know about all you guys, but I still feel like I'm 12 years old when I listen to everybody come up here. And I was telling somebody earlier today, it was about, all the older guys here have like the good stories. I was the 10-year-old at the races. I was having dinner with mom and dad or taking a bubble bath, and all these guys were out having a great time. So I love hearing all your stories, and I can't wait to hear more. You guys enjoy the evening, and without further ado, here's Cash Matthews. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir. All right, good evening. Are we on here? Awesome. Hey, I can't see anybody, so that's going to be to my favor. Really glad everybody's here. Thank you, BA, for 17 years of letting this kid from Shawnee, Oklahoma, be part of something way bigger than himself. And I'm just honored to be here. And you guys like Gmo and Shane and Jennifer and Jackie Altizer who bring all this together. And it's so much easier to be. I run a couple of other state Hall of Fames, and I know what it's like to do all of this. And so you guys, I don't know, maybe we need to have a Hall of Fame for people who support Hall of Fames, because this is such a great group. So let's get on with this. What an amazing night we're going to have. What's great about a night like tonight is this is a lot like, it's a kind of a family reunion, not a class reunion. And how many other sports tonight are getting back together? How many football teams, little league teams get together 1 or 2 or 3 times a year and celebrate with their competitors and talk about their sponsors? And not very many. So the world of BMX is very unique. It is truly a family, and it's united by life on 2 wheels, whether it's, Guy Cooper, world champion, was over here today earlier, but it's life on 2 wheels, and we share a lot with those people. So I'm honored to be here. Whatever we're racing on or wherever we're racing, it's kind of a cool thing that we're doing this. Plato said that excellence is rare. Being excellent is rare. Tonight, we get to call out those who've achieved excellence in their life. The Bible says, show me a person skilled in their work, and I'll show you a person who serves before kings and queens and not the obscure man. And tonight, when you see our list of inductees into the National BMX Hall of Fame, you will see people who committed to live a life of excellence. And to be able to stand just in their shadow up here is amazing for me, and I know, BA, for you as well, that we get to participate in something great like that. So we're going to move right along with the program. And speaking of BMX family, there's a love and supportive community. I want to roll right into our first inductee, and that is Mike Redmond, who's one of the most amazing bicycle people I've ever met. And I was excited just to stand with him so many times and watch him do his thing. He was a man of excellence. Let's watch the lights.
We could go on for the next 2 hours with the resume of Mike Redmond and his many accolades. But we thought we'd let Mike give it to you himself.
Hey everybody, Redbone here, Mike Redmond, BMX trainer, bike manufacturer, track operator, 4-time Pull Magazine Team of the Year, 4-time ABA National #1 Factory Team. Just want to welcome you to the BMX Hall of Fame and Museum. Hope you have a great time.
Growing up in both NorCal and SoCal, Mike Redmond wasn't too shabby of a BMX racer in his youth, riding for Factory Bassett, Pedal Power, and for a short time, Team CW. In fact, he might even hold the record for most ABA suspensions, more than Chris Mad Dog Moeller. But that's not all. Considered by many to be the voice of BMX racing, Mike Redmond was one of our sport's most prolific BMX announcers. Mike's vast BMX knowledge, amazing recollection, and an innate ability to roll his R's helped make him a crowd favorite on both the National and World Cup stage. But that's not all. Redbone, the track operator. When Mike took over the reins of Cold Canyon BMX, he turned it into a BMX mecca, hosting the ABA Fall Nationals until its untimely demise. Soon after that, he'd start up the Lake Paris BMX track, now known as Grand Prix BMX, home of next year's Mike Redmond Nationals in June of 24. But that's not all. Manufacturer. Redmond dipped his feet into the BMX industry a few times. First, bringing back his old sponsor, Bassett Racing, before becoming owner/founder of Redmond Bikes. His Tomahawk line of frames have won plenty of races, thanks to his always talented roster of radical riders. But that's not all. To promote his brand, Mike was known as one of the most dominant team managers our sport has ever seen. With a sharp eye for talent, the Redmond team was backed up with sponsorship support from Yamaha Wave Runner and Rockstar. The Tribe were always contenders for the day's wins and year-end titles. Mike was also the first to bring the BMX box truck to the pits, custom painted by Troy Lee Designs, giving our sport that true motocross feel, and forcing all other teams to step up their game. Later on in the 20-teens, Redmond Rockstar turned it up to 11 with a full-bore 18-wheeler factory rig with smart car to match, making them the envy of all other teams. Altogether, Redmond's tribes hold 4 #1 factory titles and 2 trophy team championships. But that's not all. As BMX Trainer of the Stars, many a top pro had turned to Redbone to hone their skills. Throughout all of Pete Lonkerevich's successful career, Redmond was always right by his side as Pistol's trusty sidekick. And for a couple of decades, the Redmond Gym was the go-to place for BMX-specific training and workouts. And when it came to dialing in your gate starts, Mike has helped plenty of pros get their snap on. And that's probably not all, but we don't have all night. So let's raise a glass to honor the amazing life of Mike Redmond and the many accomplishments and contributions he left in his wake.
To the stage, please welcome to the stage Rich Huvard. Rich, are you here? know you're here somewhere. Stand up if you're here. There we go. Richard Huvard, thank you.
A tough act to follow. Anyway, I want to say hello to all our BMX friends. Congratulations to all the inductees tonight. Although I've never been to a Hall of Fame ceremony, I joked with BA and Shannon many times for years that we Huvards wouldn't be able to make it until Redmond was inducted. It's an honor to finally be here to celebrate Redmond's lifetime of achievement and contribution to our sport. So thank you to the BMX Hall of Fame, and thanks most of all to Mike's children, Austin and Talon, for allowing me the opportunity to speak briefly on behalf of their dad, my longtime partner in the legendary Redmond Yamaha team and Redmond Bikes, the undisputed voice of BMX video personality, as I was reminded last night by Mr. Brian Gass, who also made the trip this weekend to honor Mike, consummate track owner and respected trainer who worked with the who's who of BMX racing elite, including, I believe, one of the inductees, Bubba, tonight. And my best friend for nearly 25 years, Mike Redmond. Although he's been gone nearly 4 months now, both me and my wife, Andrea, who I know Mike liked better than me, everybody does, still think about him daily, thankfully more and more with a smile and a laugh. Of course, it's disheartening that Mike's not here to see, hear, and feel the incredible and, for many, the surprising outpouring of love and respect for him from all around the BMX world. That man had a lot of friends, more people who called him best friend than anyone I've ever known. I was lucky to be one of them, and for all of the BMX knowledge he shared with me over the years. There would be no daylight today if not for his gift of friendship. Although Mike certainly understood his outsized place in the BMX world, he would have been humbled and proud as your acknowledgement and, yes, this induction is something he very much hoped for, having given nearly his entire life to making BMX the best it could be. Most BMX greats have their moment in the sun, but eventually all move on to other things, the next chapter in their lives. Mike only had one chapter, BMX, and he wrote and rewrote it for over 50 years. Affectionately known throughout the BMX world as Redbone, Mike was recognizable to so many whenever he came to the races. He had a giant voice and an even bigger personality. That meant walking beside him through a race crowd required constant pausing to greet, exchange stories, impart advice, and share encouragement with many race fans and admirers. Even more amazing, he personally knew every one of them, as undoubtedly he knew so many of you who raced and the details of your racing history. An encyclopedia of BMX knowledge and history who was a vital and constant force for the sport's progression from its early days in Southern California to its debut in the 2008 Olympic Games, where he cemented his legacy as one of the greatest announcers in BMX, if not the greatest. Mike was a part and made us all a part of every great race he announced. He elevated every event and made BMX racing pro. But even though he was the man on the mic everyone wanted to talk to and rub shoulders with, Mike never thought of himself as anything special. He was just a BMX dude, Redbone. Something that was never more true than during those first Olympic Games when he would Skype every night with my family, bored and lonely, as he was not allowed into the athletes' village with all the riders who was his friends. Instead, the organizers placed Big Mike in a tiny cubicle with a list of racers' names and phonetic instructions on how to pronounce them. Of course, he knew them all and knew how to say Mike Day, Donnie Robinson, and Mara Strombergs, so he would just sit there and call us with hilarious exports in China. Dude, he said as soon as I connected my computer to the call, I'm the fattest effing dude in Asia. Then the next night, dude, I can't get tickets to anything, and the only sport they show here is effing badminton. All effing day. Mike's BMX story began as it still does for every kid who loves the freedom and excitement that comes from riding a bike. Although he raced as a teen and young pro, it would be as a trainer and team owner that Mike first made a name for himself in the BMX business. His acquisition of Bassett in turn motivated the creation of his MRC, Mike Redmond Concepts banner, where his reputation coaching many of the sport's top pros out of his Santa Ana gym grew. Dreaming of promoting BMX to the heights of motocross, Mike recruited legendary designer Troy Lee to paint his team box van, the first in BMX. Mike also imagined a better total experience, his own track where he could train the kids as well as elite racers, and at his legendary Coal Canyon BMX in nearby Yorba Linda, twice home to the Fall Nationals, he became the first American trainer track operator to do so. Soon, racers from all over were traveling to ride and train with Redbone. Meanwhile, his Redmond team evolved into a factory contender, but competing against multi-million-dollar bike companies often relegated Redmond into a feeder program for the big factories. In the late 90s, the Redmond team and my Diamondback team were fierce rivals. Now, we all know Mike was always up for a good fight. That is, he was no BMX saint. I think the ABA banned him for life, at least once, maybe more. But Mike had an infectious quality that always won him the favor of the crowd and another chance. I hated the dude and his ragtag crew until I got another chance when we were waylaid by a snowstorm after the Reno National, where Mike and I talked for hours. I was enthralled and in stitches, and despite that we were two completely different people from two drastically different worlds, Mike eventually welcomed me onto his team. I'd like to think because we shared a vision, but mostly I know it was because I had sponsor dollars and some talented riders, and he was determined to win, back when winning meant beating the firm. It was a week after the 99 Grands when I picked up the phone. Dude, what's going on with the Diamondback team? I explained I had worked a new deal with a local parts company and retained many of the DB sponsors. Dude, what? With no idea where he was going. Your guys, my guys, we could win. When I hung up, Andre asked what it was all about. Mike wants me to bring our best racers and run the Redmond team. She looked at me like I was crazy. You're going to run the Redmond team? I paused and then shrugged. We could win. And we did. Through his sheer determination and the power of his personality, he was able to pull together the talent to win 4 factory team titles and a UCI World Team title. I'll never forget standing on the stage with him after the Grands, everyone but ours and the answer team gone, when Mike held up that first cup. I was stoked and proud. Mike was in tears. After all those years of struggle, Mike had defied the odds to become the best in BMX in his own way, even if he wouldn't let himself believe it. Afterwards, walking back to the pits, he pulled me aside and he said very seriously, "Dude, this doesn't change anything. We'll have to win 5 more before they take us seriously." I thought of our relationship during those years like this. I was the man behind the curtain pulling the levers of the machine when Mike was the great and powerful Wizard of Oz, or the Wizard of BMX, with flames erupting all around his giant Redmond head. Was it all an illusion? Some of it, of course. But Mike undeniably had a magic about him that inspired a love for BMX and an honest belief that anyone could win if they wanted it and worked for it hard enough. And in the years since, at his Grand Prix BMX in Lake Paris, Mike continued to inspire and teach every rider who walked through the gates, offering BMX wisdom and advice from the first novice to world and Olympic champions. I'll leave you now with one more piece of Redmond magic to consider. The amount of BMX gates in the world that use the voice of Mike Redmond as the starting cadence. Every one. Just a month before his passing, he confided in me that despite the challenges and setbacks that came from being a BMX guy for life, that he was very satisfied, maybe even happy, knowing that a part of him was out there at every BMX racetrack, big and small. "That's pretty cool, dude," he said to me. "Yeah, Mike, that's pretty damn cool. And so too, my friend, were you." While it's easy now for all of us to look back and finally see all that Mike accomplished and to mourn his loss, let's instead choose to remember that competitive and infectious spirit, that sharp humor in the face of whatever life threw at him, His incredible announcing voice that put us all in the middle of the race action, and just the dude's overall radness that helped shape the sport he loves so much. Indeed, Mike Redmond was BMX, and now he'll forever be a part of our BMX Hall of Fame. Tribe for life.
Next to the stage on behalf of Mike Redmond is his family, Austin and Talon. Would you all come up?
I just wanted to come up here and say thank you for recognizing my father and all that he's done for the sport. Thank you.
All right, so this time next year should be an exciting time for BMX. We have the Paris Olympics coming up. Those will have wrapped up. Our freestyle division for Team USA looks amazing. And I think in my brain we've got a great shot at having a gold medal. And our U.S. team is led by our next inductee. And I am so excited to be able to bring him up here on stage. And our next inductee is Ryan Nyquist. But before we bring him up, let's watch the lights.
It's a question we hear often. What does it take to get inducted into the BMX Hall of Fame? We'll tell you, it's more than just results or magazine coverage, although that helps. It's more than just accomplishments. It's also the contributions and impact you've made. And a lot of times, it comes down to longevity and versatility. And when you look in the BMX dictionary under longevity and versatility, there's probably a picture of this year's modern-day freestyle inductee, Ryan Nyquist. Growing up around the thriving San Jose BMX scene, Ryan was a rising young thrasher who idolized local hero Joey Garcia. Garcia would go on to win the dirt jumping round at ESPN's 1996 Extreme Games. And at the time, we're pretty sure that Ryan thought to his young teenage self, someday I too can win an X Games medal. Today, at age 44, Ryan Nyquist has accomplished that dream, and then some. After turning pro in 1995, Nyquist now has a total of 16 X Games medals from his 39 X Games starts, with 60 appearances in Dew Tour finals. He's won the Vans Triple Crown, Dew Tour, and even the Red Bull Skyline and Dreamline contests. And in the year 2000, Ryan won X Games gold on dirt, just as his idol Garcia had done 4 years earlier. But let's talk about versatility. Nyquist has long been considered one of the greatest, well-rounded, most diversely skilled BMX riders of our time, riding everything from dirt to park to street and ramps. Heck, the kid has even competed in and podiumed in free-ride slopestyle mountain bike jams. Perhaps most amazing is the fact that Ryan has been sponsored by Haro Bikes since he was 17 years old and is still pulling multiple bar spins on a Haro to this very day. When it was first announced that BMX Freestyle was being added to the Olympic Games starting in Tokyo, Nyquist at first had his sights set on making the team, but eventually wound up running the whole show for USA Cycling. In 2019, he was named as the first Team USA Olympic BMX Freestyle coach and took his young Americans to impressive finishes on the Feast circuit on their journey to the 2021 Tokyo Olympic Games. In their Olympic Park debut, Team USA scored 1 silver medal, and is looking stronger than ever for the Paris 2024 Games next year. So please, join us with raucous applause and high fives as we bring up this year's Freestyle inductee, Ryan Nyquist.
How's it going? I almost missed this. I literally ran to the bathroom thinking I was lower on the list, and then here I am. So let me pull up this speech that I wrote on the plane yesterday. All right. Well, first and foremost, thank you all for being here today. I'm actually very much in awe of this whole facility and what USA BMX has done. The Hall of Fame, I feel like, finally has like a home. Like if you walk in there, I feel like it feels like you're walking in the Smithsonian. This is like the BMX exhibit. How cool! Like so, kudos to you guys. Like it's an amazing job. Well done. And it's just, it warms my heart to walk through there and just see the history of it being displayed in such a proper way. So thank you. Yeah, Team Haro. So I'm glad that video played because I don't like talking about myself, my accomplishments. It always feels a little bit awkward. And I just have always admired people that just, actions speak louder than words. You go out there and you basically do what it takes to get it done, and that's how you kind of show your skills, show what you're made of. So I'm happy that video said a bunch of stuff, but if you want to know what I've done, you can always Google me. But just know there's a hockey player, a scientific theory, and a horse that you're going to find with the name Nyquist, and none of those are me. So just keep scrolling. Growing up, I always loved team sports, especially soccer. And I even thought that maybe someday I would be like a good army soldier. It just seemed very simple. You took orders, from your superior, your coach, and you went out there with your team and, you put the work in and you got the job done. And it just seemed like a very simple, straightforward way. In BMX, I felt like it can be like that, but it's also very just different, not like that. Especially freestyle. There's no rules. There's no set path. There's nobody saying that you have to do it a certain way. It's just freestyle, and I don't know. I just feel like there's so much creativity and just beauty in that world, and just kind of making it your own. And that's always been freestyle to me, is just going out there and kind of setting your own path, blazing your own trail. My riding especially has been just different, and I'm proud of that because I feel like sometimes it's easier to follow, trends or paths. And so I've always been kind of proud of the fact that, I was the only guy that was running 4 pegs and front brakes and 4-piece bars when everybody was doing something different. So yeah, I love freestyle. I don't know. It's not a team sport, but I feel like you always have your homies and your community there to kind of push you, So in some ways it is like a team sport because those people are always the ones that gravitated there with you and loved the same thing you did. I've loved BMX since I was 3 years old, and I know I love it because there's 3 major things that'll make a person quit riding bikes. Cars, girlfriends, and flat tires. And I've had all 3 at the same time, and I'm still here, so I know I love BMX. That's a true story, actually. So, but I do love competing, so naturally I'm competitive. I've always loved the idea that you constantly have to prove yourself. You constantly have to drop in and every single time just show people what you're made of. That no matter what you did the last event, it doesn't matter, you have to do it again. And so that was always the biggest challenge to me, is doing exactly what you had planned at that exact moment when the starter points at you and says, do it now. The pressure and the nerves all just trying to derail you from your goals. The other bike riders just laying down these immaculate runs and making you second guess yourself. Just trying to make sure that your mental game matches up with your physical game. And all of that just leading up to like one beautiful moment to see if you can stand on top of that podium. To this day, I love that process. I truly do. And I wish I still compete from time to time, but I love even more the lessons that competing has taught me. That when you fall, you get back up. You don't give up. You figure out what you did wrong and you try again. You learn from that mistake so you don't make the same mistake again. So you can walk away a better version of yourself. And that lesson has always been super valuable to me in life. How to fail with grace and dignity. Trying not to whine and complain when you get a bad score or a bad result. And trying to turn that anger or sadness into motivation to come back the next time and achieve your goals or win or just do whatever it is you went out to set out. And also when you do win, to enjoy it. You know, I've been on a lot of podiums, but I've also seen other people just stand there like just stoic, like, and I'm like, you just won a contest. Like, just give out like a woohoo! You know, like, let's celebrate. And it's not to like gloat. It's to celebrate the work that you've put in, and the risks you took, and to build on that confidence and tell yourself like, yeah, that was possible, and yes, I can do it again. And then also to celebrate the victories of others. You know, to be happy for those who've also risked it all to achieve their goals, and maybe even draw from their success to find motivation so you can also achieve your goals. My wife is a huge music fan and told me the other day that Willie Nelson was being inducted into the Music Hall of Fame, which is really cool. Like, you know, definitely deserves these. A lot of good songs. I'm sure we all know them all. He's also 90 years old. And I just kind of envisioned that being the process for me when I would, you know, be a little bit older and frail, and all my joints have been replaced, you know, with really cool, like, robotic stuff, and, you know, being carted up here just sipping on an Ensure, you know, just, and getting on the mic to talk about, you know, the good old days before social media and how bar spins are way cooler than bus drivers, and, you know, only to be cut off by, like, one of my sons or maybe, like, a nurse to be taken back to the hotel and watch reruns of Married with Children and eventually take a nap. You know, that's, I don't know. I didn't envision myself being here like now. So, but I am truly honored to be here and accept my spot in the BMX Hall of Fame. I'm very thankful for riders like Dave Vanderspeck, for unknowingly paving the way for, for unknowingly paving the way for a NorCal Grom like me to soar to these heights. And I also want to congratulate all the other riders that were nominated as well. I personally voted for Jay Miron, who was one of the nominees with me. He was a massive hero of mine, and I don't know, I had posters of him on my wall, and I just truly, I think deep down, wanted him to have the spot before I did. So that was where my vote went. I don't know if we're supposed to say who we voted for, but that's who I voted for. And I want to thank my wife and kids for just joining me in this wild life and the wild ride that we've been on. I think anybody that travels a lot knows it takes a great support team, because, I mean, it makes the dream work. Teamwork, right? That's what they say. Teamwork makes the dream work. So my family's enhanced my life, like, just, I don't even know. I can't even explain it, which makes leaving home incredibly hard nowadays. And it's getting harder and harder every time I have to hop on a plane. I cherish the time I get to spend with them when I'm at home, and I look forward to returning to them like I never, ever would have imagined. So I got to thank them massively. I'd also like to thank my parents for letting me pursue BMX, because there was a time when I was studying mechanical engineering in college, and I was doing really well. I had a .78 grade point average, just killing it. And so I had to make the hard phone call and just be like, yeah, I don't think I want to go to college anymore. And they were like, oh, where do you want to go? And I was like, no, I don't think I want to go at all. And my mom was very upset, and she thought, you know, I was throwing away an amazing opportunity, which I might have been. But, you know, she taught me she was always the tough love one. She goes, well, if you're not going to go to school, like on our plan, you got to figure out where you're going to live and how much you're going to pay for rent and insurance. And I was like, geez, okay. And so, but taught me how to, basically live life, not under someone's wing. And then my dad basically took me aside and said, your mom's taking this really hard, and I was like, yeah, obviously I gotta pay my own rent and insurance now. So yeah, it's tough. But he just said, he's like, if you decide to go down this path, just make sure you do it 110%. So both those things kind of accelerated me, not just in life, but also in BMX. I took that to heart. I gave it my all, and I feel like it kind of worked out. So, but yeah, I got to thank them massively too. I need to thank my brothers. My older brother Ian was actually the one that introduced me to BMX freestyle. He had this sweet white red line with an ACS rotor, and he was doing all these cool things with it, and that's really what I just was like, this is so cool. Like, I need to do this. And that led to me actually getting my very first freestyle bike, which was a Haro Sport, which I would ride to school every day. And all my friends called it a hard sport because the stickers, the O looked like a D. And so I had to constantly correct people. I was like, no, it's Haro, not hard sports. So, and then my younger brother Shay, he also rode, but he rode in such a different style than I did. And it was so awesome to see it because he looked at things completely different than I did. He had like more of a technical style, and just, it was like technical sprinkled in with like a little mad scientist. And so he was always doing this craziest opposite stuff, but it just really opened my eyes to like how much freedom you had in freestyle. And then he also really showed me how to have fun and party, because he was way crazier than I was. And so he also sprinkled some craziness on me, which I 100% appreciate. I also want to thank Haro Bikes. I've been with them for going on 26 years now. 26 years is a very long time to be a contracted professional rider. And I don't know, it's never really felt like a job. It's just it's felt like family, if that makes sense. Just always supported, always just someone there for me to just let me know that they're there through that journey with me. I'm also, I think right now, number one in seniority at Haro, so I think that might make me the president or the owner or something like that. So I'm going to look into that right after the speech. I'm going to Google it. I need to thank Tony Degalato. For always having my back. Tony, you picked me up from the very first dirt jumping contest I had on Haro. And in 1997. That's so crazy. Tony's always been a great friend, and nowadays more of a mentor to me as I kind of transition from top pro to average Joe, I guess I could say. Just kind of, I can call on him, I can ask him advice, and he's always been there for me, which has always been amazing. Tony's been the best team manager. He was always willing to put down the company card for a dinner at Olive Garden, which I always appreciated. And he was never one ever to let my helmet hit the ground when he was carrying it around the world for me, just being my guy with the helmet. I can't appreciate you enough, man. But yeah, thank you, Tony, for just years and years of friendship. I also want to thank just the NorCal BMX scene for just bringing me up and showing me how awesome BMX freestyle can be. Cam Birdwell and Vincent Torres are in the house right here. Give them a round of applause. Cam would actually always outride me at the Calabasas jumps. And that was frustrating because he just had this trick list that was he would just dominate me. And it would always I always felt like it was by design. He would just kind of stay, we would go trick for a while, and then all of a sudden he'd be like, oh yeah, and then I got this one, and just crushed me. And I was like, oh my gosh. But testament to that guy's riding, he was always willing to send it. Just never had any, just willing to go for it. And I always appreciated that. And that just truly showed me, that anything was possible if you're just willing to go for it. So thank you, Cam. And then V-Dog, Vince Torres. V-Dog. A guy that literally picked me off the ground from the San Jose Ramp Club after I unknowingly bruised my kidney. He said this story the other day, and I was on the ground. I had a handlebar that just went right to my gut. I couldn't talk. I couldn't hardly move. He picked me up. He's a large guy. He's got muscles. But he picked me up off the ground and just carried me in, put me on this really dirty, grungy couch, and just hung out with me for a while until I drove home. And I didn't tell my parents that I crashed. I ended up peeing blood, which, never a good thing. But Vince was there for me, and through the years, he's been my riding buddy. For many years while I lived in California, he'd be the only guy I could ride with, or that would ride with me, and just seeing him pushing his riding into his 40s and 50s, I was just inspired, so inspired. And I was I'm trying to still compete and do stuff, and I'm watching him toss bar spins and just try it and just crash. I'm like, dude, if he can go for it, I'm going for it right now. So thank you guys, and thank you NorCal for just giving me inspiration constantly. I absolutely 100% have to thank Bar Spins, because without Bar Spins, I probably wouldn't be here today. So thank you to Bar Spins. You probably made me a lot of money, so thank you. And I want to thank the late 90s and early 2000s Greenville, North Carolina scene for taking the sport as a whole to new heights never before seen. There was just such an incredible scene there, and it really accelerated my career to new heights, just riding with guys like Mira, Josh Harrington, Wirch, so many riders that were in that scene, and it kind of freaks me out to remember what level of riding we were doing back then and how far we were pushing it. It wasn't unheard of to be at a contest and have 10 riders make the final and 8 of them be living in Greenville. So that's how strong of a scene it was. And not to mention just some of the partying that we did in that town, and what we actually got away with was just unreal. So those are stories that I might take to my grave. They are definitely not PG, so I will not be telling them right now. I also want to thank Dave Mira, Jay Miron, Dennis McCoy, Matt Hoffman, Joe Rich, and Taj Mihelich for being my original BMX gladiators. They were the posters that I had on my wall, guys that I just looked at as my heroes. And they truly just paved the way for me to be able to be here, basically. And they helped me believe that I could actually do this, that I could do this for a living, that I could just, be a competitor and just make it work. So I got to thank them. So I've had a lot of people tell me that I inspired them from what I did on the bike, and I always thought that was pretty incredible. I've had parents reach out to me and thank me for being a positive influence on their kids. And now that I'm a dad to 3 boys, I think that might be the best compliment I've ever gotten. As a parent, I know my kids will have outside influences, and I can only hope that they're positive ones. So to be able to do that for another parent, to influence somebody else's child, it means the actual world to me. I will never look at that responsibility of being a professional rider lightly. I never have. I can't say I was always perfect, but I did my best to be a good role model for those that were looking for one. And lastly, I hope you all can be as lucky as I am to find a passion that makes you wake up every single day loving life. I think more people need to find what makes them happy and what makes them feel joy, and do it as much as possible. My role in this sport is changing every single day. I'm definitely much closer to the end of my professional competitive career than I am to the beginning. I knew there would never be a time when I would just be able to make the choice to hang the bike up and stop. I feel like that would just leave too big a void to be filled. So the transitional phase I'm in, it's been a long one. and it's still going, and I look at it as an adventure. I'm finding that I can find joy in other people's journeys while still on my own personal quest to progress and push my own riding. And whether that's on a bike or through coaching or maybe even through a PowerPoint presentation, because I built a couple really bangers, so I'm getting psyched on that. But I'm able to use the knowledge and wisdom that I've learned through the years to help guide other riders to success, or even just find some of the same love that I have for BMX. I can show them how amazing BMX is by literally showing them how much fun I have riding a bike. So while my role in the sport is constantly evolving, I still search for that feeling of progression and what that looks like as time continues to fly by. Because time flies when you're having fun, right? I feel incredibly lucky to have found BMX, and my ultimate hope is just to one day give back as much to BMX as it's given to me. So thank you very much.
We're all getting together for some Evolve drink with Ryan afterwards. Is that what it was called? What was the drink called? The old guy drink? Ensure. Sorry, we're going to have Ensure drink together afterwards. Cool. All right, so we have another big event coming up next year. We have the Worlds returning to the United States at Rock Hill BMX in South Carolina. Last time, it was a great event. We had 350 amateurs qualify for the team. The men and women's pro division was dominated by the United States, but the Worlds is something that every kind of BMX kid, really wants to participate, competing against the very best in the world. And we're excited that that's coming. And when you see what the World Championships have become around the world, you know that their origins are here in the United States in 1978. And, I tell my kids something. I tell them, leave a footprint, not a butt print. Renny Roker left a footprint, and we're here to honor him this evening. Let's watch the lights with Renny Roker.
Throughout the decades of BMX history, you'd be hard-pressed to find a bigger promoter than Renny Roker. He was truly a visionary for the sport of bicycle motocross and was instrumental in introducing BMX to the masses. Prior to BMX becoming his passion, Renny Roker had made a name for himself promoting some of the biggest acts in the music industry. The dude knew how to promote, selling out concert arenas nationwide for entertainers such as Donna Summer to Kiss, or the Village People, or Parliament Funkadelic. It would be this particular learned skill set that would help him in the future as a BMX race organizer and promoter. Renny was also an actor, appearing in 53 motion pictures, 89 commercials, and hundreds of TV episodes. And even though we might not have caught him as customer number one on Sanford & Son, as attorney Byron Brown on Hill Street Blues, or as coach on What's Happening, we do believe the best role Renny ever played was as Principal Becker on Chips. For as all of us know, episode 21 in the second season of Chips was all about BMX, and it happened thanks to the man we're about to induct tonight. Indeed, Renny Roker had all of the right connections. When he decided to start up his own BMX bike company, Jag BMX, he teamed up with Skip Hess at Mongoose. When he decided this brand new sport of BMX needed a world championships, he pulled out his concert connections in Indianapolis to host the first ever Worlds. Whether it was bringing in big sponsors like Coca-Cola, 7-Eleven, or Tom McCann Shoes, or flying in racers from all over the globe to compete in the first ever Worlds, Renny had the connections to make it happen. When a tiny little startup cable television sports network first formed in Connecticut, Roker was right there to sell them on the greatest youth sport on the planet, BMX racing. And that, folks, is how the ESPN series of the early 80s came to be. Thanks, Renny. Along with promoting the first World Championships, most will agree that Roker's greatest achievement in BMX was forming Team Jag. His goal of starting a factory team that could boogie with the best of them, assembled with kids from the troubled streets of LA's inner city, wound up kicking off the successful pro careers of BMX Hall of Famers, such as Anthony Sewell, Turnell Henry, and Tommy Brackens, among many others. Jag was our sport's first African-American team, which helped land them on the front cover of Ebony Junior magazine. Together, Team Jag took the BMX message all across the globe, including BMX demos in Japan as early as 1980. Despite some obstacles throughout his life, Renny was a man of many firsts and had always remained positive about the future. His contributions to our sport and the influence, impact, and impressions he made on so many riders and their families will long live on. Sadly, last year on December 17th, the BMX world lost a legend. But his early vision of making BMX a global sport changed the course of BMX forever. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and join us in commemorating the incredible life of BMX visionary, Renny Roker.
Please welcome to the stage Kelly Roker on behalf of his dad and his family.
Thank you, Cash. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to thank you again for coming here and supporting the cause. I wrote a bunch of stuff down in my phone, but I think it's just going to go out the door and just going to speak what I feel. I know my dad right now, if he could be here, all you'd be able to see was his eyes and his teeth. He'd be just in a world of shock and awe. And I know I'll never be able to talk as well as he could or send his messages across, but what I want to do say is that I know that he's looking down upon us right now in a world of happiness and just excitement for us all and his accomplishments. I remember when I was a little kid starting racing BMX, I had to be around 4.5 years old. And I remember me trying to get sponsored as a young kid, and, Bry hopped and some of the guys were, thinking about sponsoring me, but when it didn't happen, Renny said, my father, he said, you know what, screw it. I'm going to start my own team. And from that point on, everything evolved from there. And I remember when they were working on the World's Championship, him and wife at that time, Carmen, they would be up wee hours of the morning. But remember, we had no internet or that kind of stuff back then, so they would be filling out mailing orders by hand, one after another, just mailing lists, sticker, package, all night, all day, And it paid off. It paid off. And as we sit here and we think about those days of yesteryear and to where we are right now, it's like there is that certain connection that brings us all, obviously, where we are today. So, without any to do, I would like to just, I'm kind of choked up right now after watching on the video. I miss him. I lived with him most of my life. My mom and him, my real mom, got divorced when I was like 1 year old. And most kids go and live with their mother, but I stayed with my dad the whole time as a single parent pretty much until he met Carmen. And I'd also like to say, he was a visionary, just like they said on the video. And his visions were very colorful. And that reflected in his personality, his uniforms, the bicycles. Like, who else would have colors such as root beer, buttermilk? And he also had, remember Jock's Jag shoes? Anybody? He had a pair of chrome shoes. Who else comes up with the chrome shoes? But, that's his creativity and the quirkiness of Renny. And lucky for us, he was one of the first ones to get BMX in the eyes of the masses through this ESPN program. And I remember sitting there with him when he would go to the ESPN studios, bored off my butt for hours when they had to edit these shows. If you've ever seen editing take place, it's just nothing but rewind back, rewind back, rewind back. And I was like, I want to go home. But like I said, everything paid off. I could never fulfill his shoes in terms of speaking and entertaining you guys as he could. Obviously, he could talk. He's an actor, a promoter. And no matter what it was, whether it was a triathlon, a sporting event, concerts, musical artist, he was going to get that place full, regardless. If I had to pass out flyers like we did back in the day, put them on cars. There was no internet, remember, so flyers, stickers, cards, whatever it took to get it. And he would be on, I listened to him on the telephone for hours and hours at a time. Hours. Coca-Cola? This is Renny Roker. And like, who? Renny Roker. Let me call you back. He'd sit there for hours. Call him back. Boop, 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 boop. This is Renny again. He was relentless. And with that same personality, that's what got us to where we are today. Without any ado, I just want to say thank you for what you've done for us and the sport of BMX. Thank you.
Hey, Kelly, can we get a shot of you over here with the plaque? All right, while we're doing that, I'm going to take a minute and recognize our sponsors. They are great. First, Skyway, celebrating 60 years in business. One of my very first sponsors in 1975. Thank you guys for what you've done continually for all of this, for all of us. Icy and Anderson's too, and I don't know where you are, John. There's lights in my eyes, but John Anderson here from Spreckles BMX Park, who's run a track for 15 years and is one of our sponsors today. We depend on hardworking people like that, and thank you, John. How about Hyper Bicycles and all they've done with the local programs? And Donnie, I'm so glad you're here and is part of that. Ron Lane, Redline's biggest fan. If you haven't seen the display, you should. Yeah, amazing things. The Commit Agency out of Arizona, who handled all the promotion for BMX. And if you see the trybmx.com campaign pop up, if that comes up in your social media, you have the Commit crew to thank for that. The Tulsa Sports Commission, who saw the dream that BA and John David and Shane had for all of this, and that they brought this thing to life. Light and Monster Tour Water, and then tomorrow we're doing a ride out to the Outsiders House. So Tulsa, you are doing very, very well, and we're proud of all the people that are part of this tonight. So thank you all. On behalf of all the riders, most of us had sponsors, and part of this is to those people who took the time to recognize the talent, like a Stu Thompson or a Tommy Brackens or a Greg Grubbs, to make sure they got their product out there. Product sponsors have always been very important. My first major sponsor was Mongoose, and I remember the day they called, hey, you want free stuff? You want to be sponsored? And I was like, I don't know, let me ask my mom. Mom, this guy wants to sponsor me. And she's like, all right, honey, as long as he sponsors your brother. And that's that's what it was like. There were no contracts. They would come out with a new thing and you get a call and go, hey, sell your old crap and pay entry fees, and here's the new stuff. And Skyway was one of those people that showed up very, very early in our world. While on the Mongoose team, I met a guy named Stanley. I've never actually seen him from the front. I could only see Stanley from the back. He was just unbelievably fast. And I met him at the Devonshire Downs National, where not only did he win 15X that I was in, but he was the guy doing the 2-pedal start. And we're all looking around going, what in the world? That's like a sin. That can't be right. Get him out of here. But he beat everybody that day. He won 15X Open and Trophy Dash. And I knew that guy was something special. And we've stayed in contact the last several years. And he's been a candidate for the Hall of Fame. But Stanley, you couldn't have picked a better one to go in with, all of these people from around the country. And I couldn't be more proud of Stanley Robinson and his brother KK, who's been there the entire way. And I love these guys, and I'm glad to be linked with them on some small level. Let's watch Stanley Robinson's video.
Way back in early 1977, when anxious teens received their second ever issue of a brand new glossy magazine called Bicycle Motocross Action. Right there, on the front cover, was Stanley Robinson, appearing to fly weightless into the night sky aboard his Mongoose bike wearing a King's BMX jersey. The Fresno Flash greeted BMX fame head-on. Instant superstardom. It wouldn't be too long after that cover that Stanley was recruited by Factory Mongoose, joining a very strong roster made up of Hall of Famers. Stanley's power and speed were unmatched in NorCal, and soon he'd be traveling down to SoCal to take on the sport's most reputable riders. And it was there, at the legendary Corona Raceway, where he'd make the biggest impact on the sport of BMX. You see, up until this time, racers had all been doing one-footed starts. That is, until Stanley dropped the 2-footed start on them. Balancing in the gate with both feet on the pedals to get the jump on the comp was unheard of until Stanley Robinson did it. This new technique would instantly change BMX gate starts as everyone knew it, and is the same starting technique used to this very day. For a period of time, Stanley was one of the most dominant riders in the sport, doubling at the NBA Grand Nationals held at Devonshire Downs. Constantly a threat on the UBR scene, he was also one of the few BMX pros to ever triple at the NBA Grands. Stanley's quest to look for an extra advantage over his comp has taken him to some peculiar places, including wild experimental bikes and parts, such as an early rear suspension setup and a crazy 10-inch long extendo stem. Unlike his 2-footed start, these experimentations didn't quite catch on. Stanley retired from professional BMX racing in the 80s, but this wouldn't be the last time we heard his name being announced at a race. In recent years, the Fresno Flash came back to racing with support from his longtime sponsor, Mongoose Bicycles. At the age of 61, Stanley Robinson is still going strong, still snapping out of the gate doing the 2-footed start he invented on today's USA BMX circuit, proving to all that nobody quits BMX. Please join us in welcoming this year's early racer inductee, Stanley Robinson.
Been a long road. Thank you very much, and thank God for putting me here. Oh my God, what a sport! I don't want to leave this sport ever. A stage, it is so. I don't know how to say. Christmas doesn't go away 365 days a year, but man, this is awesome. Racing BMX, I started out in Fresno, California, 13 years old. And I was really hooked on it right off the bat. I traveled over to the fairgrounds in Fresno, California, and I started there and got there late and pulled in. And, oh, gosh, go ahead and race. It was me and Ricky Lloyd out of Fresno. And I won. I come back again. I went out and I seen some more. And I seen this poster, John Pofferman, on the red line here coming over. I said, man, I want to try that. So I come out and went over to Oakdale and I seen Neil Bonds and Ernie Alexander and Bobby and seen it. I'm able to pull the Stingray back and I'm thinking, what's this about? And I went, uh-oh. It's time to turn into Superman. I see these guys just ripping this sport up. And I get back home the first race and got my first bike and never stopped looking back. I went to Merritt College. I went to King's BMX, my first sponsor, John Valdez, Mr. Valdez, let him rest in peace. Went from there and I got on, I see the cover shot there and I kept watching year after year after year after year and kept going and then joined the Skip and Skip Pass and Steve Johnson for Torker. And I'm winning and man, it's awesome. They're like this, the 2 Pro to start came and started that out. They see I was at Delta BMX track in Stockton. I go out and put there and come back. See the first 5 guys doing it. I was like, okay, Ray and Danny Shore and Danny Oakley, he was really tall. He was from Mongoose. He was at the Delta track. And he said, what are you doing? I said, I'm trying something. I said, hold my bike up, watch this. And we go back out. Me and Danny met. Danny held my tire there. I'm sitting there, so watch this. He said, oh, wow, I like that. So we went around and practiced that about 2 or 3 hours. I got up on the bike and I'm sitting there. I said, what do you think of this? Dan said, oh, yeah, we'll try this. And, man, I came back out, and the first month was about 5, and the next year was about 100 of them. I said, wow, look at this, man. I'm like, me in this sport? And I went, oh, man, I got to go and run to my mom and dad. My mom bought me every bike I just looked at. I got to the track. The whole year, I go see Brotherhood. I get the Van Nuys and John George, Stu Thompson, Bobby Seniors, Neil Bonds, Perry Kramer, Byron Fry, the whole red line Shimano teams out. I get up there, I'm a Fresno country boy looking at all this bike, and I go over and I look, I said, wow, look at this, man. The whole NBA, the whole national double point race, we're doing the 2 Pro to start. And I was sitting there and going, what the heck? And it just blew my mind. I met John, I met Ernie, I met Suzanne, I met Neil. And it went on and on. Bo Tima and Clint Miller and I was like, man, you famous for this stuff. And I went back and Merritt College was doing it, San Jose was doing it. All these big old stars, then we call them stars then, we're crazy about these guys in this race. I see JP Cruiser come, shock bike just coming by, just flying by. And I look at this guy like, he's going to kill me when I get up on this hill. And I got they went to Newhall. And I was like, when is it going to stop? So the next year I went back and I turned pro after 17. The first pro race was in Van Nuys. And Ernie called us over and had a meeting. Said, we're going to have a pro class. I said, okay. So I was on Mongoose. Everybody got there. They had the track went this way, and they had a pro track to the right side. And we had a big meeting. Everybody come in and got the pro class. So we're going to give you some cash for this stuff. And this sport, they stopped drag racing. They stopped swimming, football, and girls, of course. And I got out, and I looked back, and I said, wow, man, that is hot. And so we go back out, and I'm thinking, after 2 or 3 months, 2 years in the sport, going racing around. At the Tokyo comeback, everybody's doing this saddleback. Everybody's doing it around the world. I come back and A-Bay had so Anderson bought USA BMX. I'm going, what's going on? And, why don't you come back? Ernie told me to come back, Jerry Berlin. Well, we see, where's he at? I've been home and sitting around racing. And they bought a track out of Woodward, USA BMX. Why don't you come back? And we'll get you the BMX Hall of Fame. See if we can do something. Okay, I'm going out. And I just died. Man, I seen Chase bicycle. I seen Hyper bicycle. I seen Haro bicycles. and I see Mabel bicycle, and I'm going, what the heck? After 40 years of BMX and 2 Pro start, I said, I know this is not right, and I'm going, wow. I seen Connor Field, Nick Long, George Duday, Nick Keeman, the whole USA BMX, UCI BMX, world champion left to right. I'm going, man, that is so oh man, it's just like driving a NASCAR or something. I seen all these guys looking up, and they looking at the 30 millimeter, I think it's 30 millimeter gate here. They have to split it across, of course, and the sport just kept going, and I kept going. I kept racing. I'm winning, and got state number 1. I went to the Grands. I made the main right off the bat, and know a little bit too much. I dove up in and got in the main and won that. And, oh man, this is Cash. I mean, this is just breathtaking to see how far the sport has went. To see so many motos, 956 motos, 808 motos the day before, and 400 or 500 quarter semis, still doing the 2 Pro start. And I love to thank NBA, ABA, UBR, NBA, IBMX for sending me this far in this sport. And I never forget in my lifetime. Will take it where God's going to take me next. This is Brother John, IT Micey, and my brother for helping me and supporting me, and my mom and dad, rest in peace. And I'm really at a high school diploma and a college degree now. It's just this is the hottest thing I've seen in a long time to get back, and I really appreciate it, and I never forget it. Thank you very much, and have fun. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Very cool, Stanley. That's a long time coming, sir. So in the past 4 decades that BMX has been going, one of the dreams of lots of aspiring riders would have been to move to California. Over the last 5 years, that seems to have changed coast, and a lot of the top riders and sponsored top amateurs have moved to Florida. And, when I was 14 years old, I got in a bus with Scott Breithaupt, and our destination was Florida. My mom thought that was a good idea to send me cross-country with him at the age of 14, and she won Parent of the Year for that one. But hey, you got to grow up at some point. But we headed to Florida, and things were happening in Florida in a very, very big way. And some of the people even in the room, we raced multiple local races. We raced in Georgia. But one of the great races to ever happen happened at the Orange Bowl in Miami, Florida, at halftime of the Miami Dolphins, Minnesota Vikings football game. And they put a track together, and it was awesome. Stu, I think you were probably there, and PK and Mark Wagner and a lot of the great riders of the time were all there. But that all happened in Florida, and that's where we met Greg Esser and some of the other great riders from that area. But man, a lot of things happened in Florida. And Florida had people, and they had great people. And that's what brings us to our next inductee this evening. I literally can't imagine where our sport would be without Alice Bixler and what she has done for such a long time for the sport and for people. And to be able to see her recognized tonight is such a great honor for our sport and for her. And we're excited to roll video here on Alice. Watch the lights, guys.
For the past 6 decades, the Florida BMX scene has thrived with one of the strongest state series in the country, some of the finest tracks in the nation, and an impressive list of Florida riders who've left their mark on the sport of bicycle motocross. And the one single constant who's been involved on the Florida scene since 1974 is Sarasota's Alice Bixler. Yes, it's been almost 50 years since the daughter of the local Honda dealership, Haps Honda, took a bunch of neighborhood kids and their Stingrays to this brand new track in Sarasota. Not one to just spectate, it wasn't long before a young Alice was volunteering as a scorekeeper. Her involvement grew, along with her passion for BMX. By 1979, the Sarasota track joined the NBL sanction, and that same year, Florida formed the Sunshine State BMX Association, better known as the SSA. Alice was among the first volunteers to join the board and was elected secretary. But within a few months, everyone else on the board had resigned, and Bixler was thrust into the role of Florida State Race Commissioner, a title that she would own for decades to come. The first state versus state competition, the NBL President's Cup, was held in 1984, and thanks to their deep talent pool, Florida was a top contender from the start. In the end, Florida went on to win the President's Cup a total of 23 times. Today, Florida's retired President's Cup sits in one of the glass cases at the BMX Hall of Fame here in Tulsa. Alice Bixler was involved with the NBL in many capacities over the years. In 1995, she was honored as Volunteer of the Year and was inducted into the NBL's Hall of Fame in 2008. After 33 years of nonstop volunteer service, she decided in 2007 that it was time to hand off the SSA torch to some capable volunteers. The following year, the Alice Bixler Scholarship Program was established to honor her decades of dedication. In its first year, the Alice Bixler Scholarship Program awarded 3 scholarships totaling $4,350. Compared to 2023, when the program awarded scholarships to 152 students totaling over $150,000. Thanks to the Florida State program that Alice helped develop, thousands of racers have been awarded scholarship funds, enabling them to earn a college degree. So, it is with great pleasure that we introduce you to a living legend in the state of Florida to receive her Lifetime Achievement Award from USA BMX. Please welcome Alice Bixler.
Testing. All right, Alice, we're ready for you.
First off, before I get started, I have been involved in BMX for a long time, but several years ago I got where I couldn't walk anymore. So I got this scooter. This is my second scooter. My first scooter was really slow. And so I got a second scooter. And when I got the second scooter, I kept saying whenever someone would walk across the registration window, or not walk, but ride with their scooter, I'd always say to the girl in the trailer with me, I bet I could beat her. I bet I could beat her. I bet I could beat her. I bet I could beat him. And so 2 years ago, it was 2022, we had a scooter race at the Florida State Championship. And I'm happy to say that I won it. And this year, 2023, I also raced, and I won. What I need to tell you all is that I was born on a motorcycle, basically. My mom was pregnant. My dad took her to the hospital, and I was born, and it was time for me to come home from the hospital. and we came home on my dad's motorcycle because he didn't have a car at first. He only had a motorcycle. Anyhow, and that's the way that my brother Bob and my brother Denny came home. By the time we had my brother Steve, I guess we had a car, but I don't remember it. I only remember doing everything on a motorcycle. So I'm used to two wheels. And when I got older, I did kind of race my motorcycle. I was never really all that good about it, but I liked it. And so I raced my motorcycle. But then the neighborhood kids who knew I rode motorcycles told me that there was a BMX track that was going to be opening up soon in Sarasota. And I said, really? Because I knew what BMX was. There was a movie on any Sunday. I'm sure you all have seen it. If you haven't, go rent it. Anyhow, On Any Sunday has a segment in it about BMX. It's motocross without the engine. And so all the neighborhood kids knew about it, and they came to my house, and they told me that there's going to be a race, and they begged me to take them because none of their parents would. So I said, okay, I'll take you guys. So we loaded all their bicycles up on my bicycle trailer, and I had a van. I actually went through 3 vans in the first years of my BMX endeavors, and I put over 600,000 miles on those 3 vans. So y'all know I had some fun in BMX. Anyhow, the first race that we went to, I took about 10 kids from the neighborhood in my van, because I had a cargo van, not a van with chairs. And everybody climbed in, and we came to the BMX track. And the first race was sanctioned by the National Pedal Sport Association. And I immediately met Mr. Bob Croker, who was the man that owned the NPSA sanction. And he was begging for people to help. Well, I used to score motorcycle races, so I offered to score the races. And that's kind of how I got started in BMX. I will tell you that at the first race, I had to sign all the kids up, and I had to sign a release form, not thinking back then how awful it is to sign a release form for someone who's not your child. Had no idea what kind of trouble you could get in doing that, but I did it anyway, and I did a lot of things that I probably shouldn't have anyway. What I can tell you is that I was excited to do it. I also had my son with me, my oldest son. He was 4.5 years old, and I brought him to the race. I had just bought him a nice Schwinn 16-inch bicycle, and I thought that would be perfect to race on. Of course, after the first race, we went straight back to the Schwinn shop, and I got a 20-inch bicycle. But what I can tell you is that all the neighborhood kids seemed to really love it, and that was the start of BMX for me. What I didn't like is the Breakfast Optimists ran our races, and they didn't really care about running races. They just cared about selling hot dogs out of their concession trailer. And so it wasn't working because they didn't want to do it every week like the kids wanted to do. So I went to we had a motorcycle club called the Sand Slingers Motorcycle Club. And I went to them and I asked them if they would come and help our parents run races and teach them how to do it, and so that we could have races on a more regular basis. And they all agreed to that, and so that's how we started having regular races at our BMX track. Now, honestly, I wasn't just going to sit here and talk to you guys, so I'm old school, so I don't have a computer. I have a whole bunch of papers here that I was going to read to y'all. And I guess I better hurry up because I know that I don't want to take up all your night, but I want to make sure I tell you a few things. The first thing I want to tell you about is our track. It was a dirt track, and that was our original track, was dirt. And we didn't have a starting hill. We started with a flag. We had flag starts, a dirt track. We had flat turns, no berms, and we had some jumps that they put like a telephone pole under, put a little dirt on top, and they called that a jump. But the main thing that we had at our track, which was really cool, was a water hole. The fire department would come, fill up the hole with water, and we had a water hole. And that was how our races were at first. But what got bad was sand does not pack, or dirt. Dirt in Florida is really sand, and sand doesn't pack. So what I started doing is going to our motorcycle shop and getting some used oil, because we always had to figure out a way to get rid of the used oil anyway. So we took it over to the BMX track, dumped it on the track, it packed the sand down, and made it better to race. So that's how we used to get rid of our used oil. Of course, after a while that didn't work, so we got crushed shell or marl. And then after... There's nobody here from the EPA or whatever you call it, right? Anyway, after that, we went and started using clay. And clay was so wonderful. Plus, we also changed our starting mechanism. We went from a flag start, which was our first, to, like today, when I was at our vintage race, that was so cool that you guys had the rubber band start. But you actually had a starting hill. That is neat. We didn't have a starting hill at first. But we did eventually go from flag start to rubber band start. And then after rubber band start, we actually got a 4-foot hill, and we got a wooden ramp that, to drop. It had a pole on it, and you twisted the pole, pulled the thing out, and that's how the wood would drop. It was 12-inch plywood starting gate. And that was so much fun. One day when I was at the track, my first job was really scoring. But after that, I got to go up on the hill and do the start mechanism. And I loved doing that. I love being a starter. And I did it all over Florida, not just at my local track, but anywhere I went. I was a gate starter. If they asked for one, I was there, and I did it. And the kids used to tell me I was the best gate starter in Florida. Of course, then we came to an electronic gate. And when we went to the electronic gate, we knew we needed a red light. So Dave Miller, David Irma Miller are my friends, and Irma was the national clerk, which I'm going to talk about her in a little while. But they were on a trip up north somewhere, and they went to a flea market in North Carolina. And in the flea market, they found an actual traffic light. So we got that traffic light, we brought that traffic light home. Then they figured a way to make it work, and one of the dads in BMX stuck that thing up, and we had a really cool start program going at our track. Anyhow, whoops, I think I got off track. Let me look. Oh, I know what I was going to tell you about. When at the first race, I had my oldest son, and he was 4.5. What I didn't tell you is our first race was on March 24th. Well, 2 days later, I had my second son, who was Steve Bixler, and he's sitting right there. Oh, no, where is he? Oh, over here. Stand up, Steve, so they can see. When he was born, he was really long. And so now he's grown up to be really tall. And he is also 9 pounds, 2 ounces, which is very big for a baby. And anyhow, I'm very proud of my son, Steve. And I'll tell you a little more about Steve later on. What I wanted to tell you is that I'm going to tell you a story that we told earlier, which is not on my list, but I hope you don't mind. Anyhow, when I was a part of the NPSA from 1974 to 1979, that sanction. And I really wanted it to work, but they just didn't have anybody to promote it properly. Anyhow, we were at a race in a town called Dunedin, and I was helping the NPSA. I was kind of their treasurer, but what I really was a person saying, yes, sir, I'll have them get a check to you. Anyhow, I was there. We had a pretty big race in Dunedin, and they were looking for, the trophy guy was there, and he was looking for a check, and there was nobody there with a check. So I was trying to slough him off. Anyhow, the race was over. The guy's still arguing with me. So the kids wanted to go that I brought. And like I said, I usually always brought 10 kids. I actually had a trailer that it was a motorcycle trailer, but we converted it to a BMX trailer, and it would haul 14 bicycles on it. Some kids rode Class A and Cruiser. Anyhow, Steve was 18 months old, and I always brought him to the races. He was at the races since he was little, and I'd sit him in the dirt pile because he loved dirt. So I'd sit him in a dirt pile. He'd play with his cars and his little motorcycles and stuff, and he'd make tracks. And so I didn't really think about it, but the kids were bugging me. So I told them, load up the van. As soon as y'all are done, let me know, and we'll leave. So they came over. They said, we're done. I said, great. Is everybody here? They said, yes. So I said, okay. So we hopped in the van, and we headed straight to McDonald's because that was the scene that you did back then. We get to McDonald's, and I said, okay, who's got the baby? And nobody had him. But he survived. I raced back there. There was a lady there that was hanging on to him, and she was madder than heck. And I said, thank you, and I grabbed my son up, and we went back to McDonald's. When Steve got older, the next thing that we did is, he wanted to race like his brother. His brother was really fast, figured out how to get out of the gate from the very beginning, turned expert quick. I was very, very proud of his racing. Steve, there, on the other hand, had fun. He was there to race and have fun. And he just never really could get out of the gate. So I thought, okay, I know how to get out of the gate because I did that in motorcycle racing. So I said, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you learn how to get out of the gate. So I got a cruiser. I had a DG cruiser. And this was, I think, in either 78 or 79, might even have been 80. Somewhere around there. We weren't NBL yet, so I knew I was still in, it had to be 79, I think, when I started teaching Steve how to get out of the gate. Well, it was fun, and the other moms saw me doing it, and so they wanted to be a part of it also. And actually, it must have been 80, because we were a part of the NBL, because Bob Tedesco was in charge. It was after George Esser stepped down. Anyhow, I went to Bob Tedesco and I said, we need a ladies cruiser class. And he said, no, you don't. And I said, oh, yeah, we do. We've got a lot of moms in Florida that want to race cruiser. He said he wasn't going to do it. So being as how I was on the Sunshine State BMX Association and pretty much everybody else had resigned, and so I begged people to come back on, and I was in charge. So I said, hey, guys, how about we start a ladies cruiser class? And there was 2 ladies that were on the board at the time that rode with me. So they were all in favor of it. So that is honestly how the lady cruiser classes got started, because we did it with our program. Oh, I forgot to tell you guys something. When I was a part of the NPSA, we didn't have a rule book. They had no rules. It was unbelievable. The first race we went to, kids were in T-shirts, and some had long pants on, some had shorts on, and nobody brought a helmet. Whoever thought about needing a helmet? And so after the first race, they decided they needed to make some rules. So the first rule was you had to wear a long sleeve shirt, long pants, wear a helmet, and Army boots. So, of course, it didn't take us long. We had to go to the Eagle Army Navy store and buy Army boots. And then we decided we had to figure out classes and stuff. So we actually wrote the first rule book for the NPSA at a dad's house over in St. Petersburg, which is north of where I lived. I was on that committee. We used to have a lot of arguments. We even broke the guy's dining room table. One of the dads jumped up and banged on the table when he said no way, and then the table split, so everybody agreed we needed to do that. Anyhow, that's how we got started with the first rule book. Gosh, I already talked about flag starts, didn't I? I talked about the dirt. Oh, I didn't tell you about lining the track with tires. We used to line our track with tires. We thought this would be a good way to keep the kids in the track and keep the grass off the track. That was before clay. And, of course, the kids started getting hurt if they got too close to the tires. So we decided this isn't going to work. And unfortunately, we had put tires around our entire tracks. We had a lot of tires. Well, we needed to get rid of them. Well, thank God on the outside of our track, it was really mushy and muddy. So there was a big hole there. So we threw all the tires in the hole. Then we took the dirt and we put some dirt over top of it. I think the tires are still there, to be honest with you. when we had the, like I said, MPSA was not really working well. And I had met George Esser. Actually, I knew Mr. Esser because he raced motorcycles against my dad. My dad won the Miami Swamp Run against Mr. Esser way, way, way back in the 50s. But anyhow, so Mr. Esser is who I met first from the NBL sanction. And it wasn't called NBL then, it was called NML, National Motorcycle League. But after he saw that there was an interest, then he went ahead and formed the National Bicycle League, and that's how NBL got started. There were 7 tracks that started from Florida with the NBL. Let's see, where did I leave off? Oh, I want to read you this about the one thing that I think is really, really great about BMX are the people that you meet, the people that you become friends with, that you end up loving. And I have a friend like that. I want to tell you about her right now. I'm going to read you this because it makes me a little emotional. And I think some of you guys know her. Matter of fact, I know you do. One of my greatest BMX friends was Irma Miller. I met Irma and Dave in the early years of BMX. Dave was a lawn man and Irma worked for the lawn garden place. They really knew about plants and maintaining tracks. So one of the first things we did is we went down to the lawn and garden place and we got a bunch of twigs that she said were trees. We brought them back to Sarasota BMX and we planted them. If you've ever come to Sarasota BMX, you know we have a big forest of pine trees and we have some beautiful oak trees. Every one of those we planted. And I think they're beautiful. So please come and visit us. One thing I can say about Irma is she amazed me in her knowledge of what was to come. She was always 2 steps ahead of every great idea that came out of our sport. From 1984 to today, she has handled registration. And back in the early days, we did a registration by hand. You guys filled out a little sheet. It had your name and your bike number and your membership number. And then we put it on the moto sheets. We shuffled them. Then we wrote them on after we flipped the cards over. So it was really, really an unusual way to do it. And we had 200 kids on a Friday night. And we would close registration at 7:30 and we started at 8. So in a half an hour, we wrote 200 kids' names on moto sheets. Anyhow, she was not only the local track clerk, and she still is. She still does our registration at Sarasota BMX. She's a workhorse. Now that she's retired, she's there every night. She's there in the day. If you call her and you want to come practice, if you're from a foreign country, you contact Irma. She lets you in. She's amazing. For 15 years, she was the SSA points keeper and clerk. From 1989 to 2011, she worked as the NBL clerk and ran all the nationals. From 91 to 2011, she worked with IBMFX and UCI on their international program. She also assisted in the running of the 2008 Olympics in Beijing, China. She was the behind-the-scenes lady. She helped to design 2 race programs and 1 points program. She and I came up with the current Sunshine State program that USA BMX uses today. The greatest gift that I have ever received from BMX is the true friendships. Not just Irma, but many others. Okay, next thing I want to tell you about, I started taking my BMX kids to races. And we had a race in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It was at a track called North Park, not South Park, but North Park. And at North Park, they had a race. If you made it to your main, you got to race inside the Three Rivers Stadium during the Pittsburgh Steelers team halftime, and there was over 50,000 people there. And of course, the track was just like today's. It was wooden ramps and a flag, well, it was a flag start. Anyhow, it was really a lot of fun. That was a really great race, and I was glad I went to it. And one thing that I took a bunch of kids from my local team, and We raced, most of them made the main, got to race that night. And then the next day, they had a bicycle enduro, and they raced the enduro and won a bunch of trophies. So we came home with a lot of gold. But the other neat thing that they did is they had a team race. And back then, team racing isn't what it is today. Team racing was relay racing. So we entered in the relay race, which is age groups, so youngest to oldest. And our team won that race. And unfortunately, I no longer have that trophy. I wish I had it, but I don't. So you just have to take my word for it that I'm telling you the truth. I already told you about the cruiser class, but let's see, what's the next thing I wanted to tell you? Yep, that's cruiser. Yay. We're getting along. We'll get through these 20 pages in no time. The President's Cup race, like the thing told you, was really a fun, interesting race. I loved it from the very beginning, and I was for a while I was on the NBL board. I thought, I knew how to run races. I knew how to run programs. I thought doing it in Florida was great. And when I was nominated to be on the NBL board and help nationally, I thought, yeah, I think I could do this. So I did. I found out it was a lot more work than running just Florida. But I did get involved. And the President's Cup was one of the first things that we did. And I can tell you that if you never raced the President's Cup, you don't know what real fun is, because the kids just absolutely loved it, at least the Florida kids, because that was their first time getting to see snow. Most of them, their first time flying on an airplane. And what was cool about the President's Cup is it was like the race of champions, but not really, because most of the kids that went, they did earn a state number plate. They had to be in the top 10, but they never raced the national programs. So, and what was the other cool thing is it was seeded. So when you got to the President's Cup, you didn't have to race somebody else from Florida. You raced somebody from Connecticut or wherever, Michigan, everywhere. Ohio, because that's where it was in Ohio. The other thing I wanted to tell you about was the Millers and myself. We decided to load up our vehicles and go up to Indianapolis, Indiana, to the Jag World Championship. I knew Renny Roker because he did a movie in Sarasota called Honky Tonk Freeway, and that's how I met Renny. But I also knew of him from BMX, and the Jag World Championship was absolutely the coolest thing ever. And yes, Renny was a fun guy, and he knew how to promote stuff. When we went to that race, what was crazy is that the kids had to go in one way and parents had to go in another. So Irma and I, we're looking at our two little kids. Stevie was too young to go, so he stayed home with Grandma. But Bix and I brought my son David, who was about 10 then, 10 or 11. We brought him, and Dave and Irma brought Doug. And we had to go in one way, and the kids went in another. Well, the whole time we're in there, we're in the bleachers, we're back by the staging, and we're looking for our kids. There were so many kids there. I think there was over 3,000 kids at that race. And I could not find my son, and I was panicking because I'm like, he's only 10. These other big kids are going to, swallow him up. And so I kept looking and looking, and they said, that's it. Practice is over. And I looked at Irma and I said, I haven't found David Lee. You haven't found Doug. What are we going to do? She goes, I don't know. We got to do something. So I looked around. I finally found him in staging. I ran to the edge. I jumped over the fence. I grabbed them and ran up to the hill. And the starter had already left. So, being a starter from Sarasota, I knew exactly how to start this thing. So, that gate went down. Everybody and their brother went off, and my kid got a practice in. And two of the kids I brought, one was a guy named Freddie Canary. I don't know if you guys ever remember him because he did race some in California. Anyhow, Freddie got second, and I took another kid, Marcus Padero, and nobody knew Marcus. Nobody at all, because that kid, it was his first race out of Florida, and he won his class. He was a 9 or 10 expert. Anyhow, that was pretty cool. I also wanted to tell you all about the Bob Warnicke Scholarship. When I was on the NBL board, I knew about scholarships because I had handled scholarship with our Florida Trail Riders, which is a motorcycle group. And I really thought scholarships were very important. So when I was on the NBL board, it took over a year, but we finally got all the paperwork done to where we could start a scholarship program for the NBL sanction. Well, Bob Warnicke was on the board the same time I was, and he was an amazing guy, really good at promoting our sport. But unfortunately, he passed away at a very young age. And so we decided to name our scholarship program after Bob Warnicke. And I really want to thank USA BMX for continuing that scholarship program. I think it's absolutely wonderful. Another race that we did, and Bob Tedesco talked me into this, was a race in Puerto Rico. It was at a track called Cabo Rojo. And so I took a bunch of kids from our neighborhood, and a bunch of other kids went. We went to Puerto Rico. And then we took a bus on San Juan side over to this town called Cabo Rojo. And what was kind of neat about this race is, and Steve was old enough to go with me then, and so what was neat about this race is when we got there, we were right on the beach at like a cottage type place. And I thought, wow, this is really nice. I didn't notice at first that there were no windows in the buildings. The other thing that they didn't have is they didn't have sheets on the beds. There was no sheets, no pillows. Nobody told me I needed to bring sheets and pillows. They also didn't tell me I needed to bring towels. They didn't tell us that they didn't have hot water. Anyhow, the kids totally freaked out over it, but honestly, it was fun, and it was a trip I will never forget. And just like today, I have never had anybody ever ask for my autograph. So today, when we came for the races, well, we watched the vintage races. We also watched some of the other races, the regular races. And one of those kids came over and said, "Is this you?" And she's pointing to the picture that they had done on me. And I'm like, "Yeah." And she says, "Will you sign my sheet?" And she hands me, and I did an autograph. I'm like, wow, this is totally awesome. When we were in Puerto Rico, the kids from the racetrack there at Cabo Rojo asked my son Steve for his autograph. And that today made me remember that situation with him. The next thing I kind of want to talk to you guys about is that when there was a change in the NBL, when Bob Tedesco had retired and there was a change in the NBL, I was worried about what was going to happen because we had such a good thing going, but I could tell that things weren't working out right. Then I got a phone call from BA, and he talked to me about the NBL and the ABA situation. And so I decided it was time for me to go to Arizona and meet BA and get to find out exactly what it was that was going to happen. And he basically told me that ABA was going to be purchasing the NBL. But he said, I don't want you to worry because I kind of like what you do in Florida, and I'll make sure that your Florida program continues. And I thought, wow, this guy really thinks he's going to buy the NBL? And it really did happen. Forever, everybody called me an NBLer, and I was. I was a diehard NBLer. But you know what? It doesn't matter if you're NBL. It doesn't matter if you're ABA. It doesn't matter if you're USA BMX. BMX is BMX. And I discovered that is a true statement. That's what BA told me back then, and I know that he's right because it doesn't matter what sanction we race. And so I'm forever grateful for my friends from NBL, but I'm really grateful for my friends from USA BMX. And I wanted to tell you guys that I want to tell you a little story about John David. Some of you all remember him. He was, for a long time, a big cheese with the ABA. But I knew him before he was with ABA. I knew him when he was a itty-bitty track director in Louisiana, and then he became a employee of the NBL. And he was really good for y'all. I'm kind of happy that he's enjoying a new career, but I'm also grateful that he brought his daughter over here, and I'm happy to say that Faith David is really a good employee of USA BMX, and I like dealing with her, so I'm glad she's a part of this program now. And Faith, tell your dad that I wished he would have been here. I would have taken him for a ride on my scooter. If you know John David, just ask him about the ride I gave him in my Camaro. I've always had hot rods, and I showed him what one can do. When ABA took over the NBL, I was really glad that they changed it to USA BMX, because all the NBLers were so against the ABA. Having it be USA BMX made it much easier for us NBLers. So I was grateful that our name changed to USA BMX. And from that, I got to know Bill Curtin, because our point system was no longer the correct point system. We had to use USA BMX's point system, and Bill became our points keeper for the program that we did in Florida. And he did such a good job setting it up and getting it, the way that we awarded the riders, and that worked out great. And the other thing that worked out great is they let us continue to do the way we ran qualifiers. In Florida, not every track gets a qualifier for the state championship. It's every other year you get one. And then our state championship is generally always in Central Florida. So Orlando track or St. Cloud track. Although now our award ceremony has gotten so large that it's becoming a problem. So I don't know if we're going to ever move it out of Central Florida, but that might be possible someday. But it wouldn't have been possible without the help of Bill Curtin, and he still does our points today. So thank you, BA, for letting Bill be a part of our program. After a while, Bill had to stop coming to Florida and running our races. And so now we have Chris Luna that comes. And Chris makes our races run smoothly. Our races are always over 1,000 riders. And it's a mini national, I think. And it's a lot of fun. So if you ever want to come race a Florida series, it's an open series. You don't have to be from Florida to race. But you do have to get some locals in. One thing I put on here that I want to make sure I say is both Chris and Bill are great people to work with, and I love both of them. They're a lot of fun. Then I also need to tell you, it was about 25 years ago that I stopped. I got injured. Our motorcycle store this year is 75 years old. Actually, in November, the third weekend in November, we're having a big celebration. And we're having a reunion of everybody that ever worked at HAPS. So it's turned into a huge, giant thing. And I'm kind of excited about it. My dad was an amazing man. He loved motorcycles, and that was his life. And he was an amazing man, but I can tell you, he used to get mad at me when I had left the shop, because I work at HAPS. And I would leave the shop and I would go to a BMX race. And he goes, I wish you put just as much energy in motorcycles as you do that damn BMX. But he didn't understand, I'm sure he's listening to me talk right now, and he's probably slapping me in that side of the head. But honestly, that's the truth. My dad made it hard for me to be able to do what I wanted to do in BMX. I want to tell you about my husband. For a long time in my early years of BMX, everybody thought I was a divorcee because he also worked at the shop with me, and my dad would never let both of us go at the same time to the races. And so he rarely came with me when we would go out of town. And so everybody thought I was a divorced mom with 2 boys, and they all felt sorry for me. They didn't realize that I had a wonderful husband that took care of everything for us. And what's really crazy is when we were, when we would be at home at night and I'd have some BMX drama going on, and I'd talk to him about it. He'd tell me what I ought to do. And you know what? About half the time I took his advice. He was really smart on that. After my dad passed away, I hate to say, that Bix started coming to the races with me, and I absolutely loved it. I wished it would have happened when our kids were little. But he did come with us to the big races, but the local weekly stuff, he didn't come. But after a while, he started coming with me with the races because I'm handicapped and I couldn't get my scooter in and out of my van. I had a car then. And I couldn't get my scooter in and out, so he'd come with me to the races, and it was really wonderful. He would treat me like a queen, and after every Saturday night, we'd go somewhere special to a nice dinner. And I truly miss him. I can tell you that he was really a great man. I don't know why he put up with me. No other man would have put up with my shit, and I'm not kidding. Irma used to get on me. One time, I was always a hot rod, and one time I lost my driver's license for a whole year. And I didn't want to tell my husband because I knew he'd be really mad about it, so I didn't tell him. And I kept driving. Thank God I didn't get pulled over and get a ticket or put in jail or whatever they do to you when you're driving without a license. But anyhow, my time was almost up, so I was going to driver's school. I had to do a driver's school again, so I did the driver's school thing, and Irma was my cover because I kept telling him I was going to Irma's house for a meeting. Well, one day he got a little upset about it, so he calls up Irma, and he says, "Is Alice there?" And she said, "No, she's not. She's at driver's school." Oh, I got in so much trouble over that. But I did get my driver's license back, and anyhow. But she's a good friend. She covered for my butt for quite a while, till finally one day she wouldn't do it anymore. Anyhow, Bix was an unbelievable great guy, and I miss him dearly. He was Irma's right-hand man at the Grands. Every year we'd go to the NBL Grands, and he would post the moto sheets up for her. And I worked registration or hospitality, and we always passed out the number plates when the races were over. That was one of our jobs. In January of 2020, he developed liver cancer, and I really thought he would be all right. But on September 15th, 2020, he went to the doctor, and the doctor said, "No, I think you need to go to the ER. You're not breathing right." So he went to the ER. Well, COVID was still going on, so they wouldn't let my son took him to the ER because I couldn't get around good. And so my son took him, and they wouldn't let us. I never got to see him alive again. He passed away on October 20th of 2020. October 4th of 2020. And so then I was like, I was devastated that I lost such a great man. And I never felt I gave him, the recognition that you should give somebody. And I don't feel I showed him enough love because he really was a great man. And to this day, it still kind of bugs me that I wasn't the wife I wish I would have been, and I wish I would have been a little bit more honest about the driving record. But anyway, after he left, my kids talked me into trading in my race car and trade in my husband's SUV, and we got a minivan, something I said I would never own. But what's cool about the minivan is it's got a thing in the back, and you just push a button, it comes out and down. Then you can put the scooter on it, comes back up, goes in, and then I got away to the races. And so that's how I get to the races now, in my minivan. Anyway, at first it was, I can get to races that way, but I still got to have somebody come with me to get it out because I can't stand long enough to get it out. So my brother Bob, stand up. That's him over here. My brother Bob started coming with me to the races after Bix passed away. And that was really great for me, and I'm grateful that I had somebody to help me get to the races. Another person I want you all to know about is Jennifer Kratz. Jennifer, are you over there? Jennifer's my buddy from Okehele. Okehele is the South's number one, not South, excuse me, the East Coast number one track. They have more riders than anybody else in Florida. And it's because of Jennifer and a guy named TC. They put on a program that's unbelievable. And so I used to bug her about how to make our local program become better, because once we got a Supercross hill, it became a little difficult. We did the Supercross hill, and I could tell you about that, but that could be another 2 or 4 days. So I won't tell you. But Jennifer is a really good friend of mine. Her and I work in the trailer together. We did for a while. Now she's with the Okehele team, and I miss you in the trailer. And but the other cool thing about Jennifer is her daughter's right over there too, and her daughter's name is Violet. I like Violet because she likes to race against boys, which is cool. That's what I had to do at first, and she's really fast. The other thing about her is that she likes motorcycles, and she talked her mom this year into going and getting a motorcycle. Of course, they came over to our motorcycle store, and her mom wanted her to have a little 110. It's called a CRF 110. It's an automatic transmission. You don't shift gears. Now, if you want a race job, you don't want an automatic transmission. So the first thing I did is convince her mom that she could get on a 125 and learn how to shift gears. And so we did. We put her on a 125, put her in the side yard, took about 15 minutes. She had the hang of shifting gears, so boom. The girl's riding a CRF 125 now, and she's doing a hot job on her motorcycle. But she also still races BMX, which is what I love. Anyhow, that's what I want to tell you about her. Now, the last one I want to tell you about, well, actually, I got somebody else in between there too. But I want to tell you about my cohort in crime. Ever since Bix passed away, I haven't really had anybody to, do crap that you shouldn't do with, right? So I met this girl back when she was just a little kid, and she was always in trouble. Her mom and dad had divorced, so she had a stepmom. And sometimes she wasn't nice to her stepmom, but I couldn't tell her that she was a little, grumpy, mean kid to her. I tried to mentor her to be better at it. Anyhow, that's when I met Kelly Dietz. Kelly, stand up. You're over there, right? Yes, you are. Stand up. Anyway, Kelly's right over there. She raced BMX. She dated all the BMX kids at our track. She did marry one, had 3 kids, now he's gone. But the kids are still here. Those 3 kids had other kids. So now she's got at our track still. And now she runs our concession building. So if y'all come to if you come to the National in January, you'll get to meet Kelly and the rest of the Bee Ridge Women's Club. Anyhow, Kelly gets me in a lot of trouble. I also need to tell you some things about my son, Steve. Steve, my oldest son, David, he started out fast. He got to the point where he had had felt he was successful, then he was ready to move on to something else. And he became a bookworm. And he went to University of Florida, and from there he got a career, married a nice girl, gave me a grandson. I have all grandsons, by the way. No granddaughters. We don't know how to make girls in our family. But Steve I still had with me. And so with Steve, we went to all the races. I got to tell you about this one car that I've always had fast cars. I had this one car, 1987 Buick Grand National. If you guys might know what they are. It's a black. Yeah. Yes. When you tromp on the gas, it throws your neck in the back seat. I'm not kidding. Well, yes, it was turbocharged. And Steve loved it because first thing he had me do is get these big old woofers. And then we put them in the back in the trunk, so there was no trunk space. We put them in the trunk. One time we were going over the Skyway to this track in St. Petersburg. And when we went there, the whole way there, we're booming out, right? I do like music. And I can tell you about another kid that was on my team that ended up being a backup singer for AC/DC. But that'll be another story 10 years down the road. Anyhow, Steve went with me. We went to the St. Pete track. And at the St. Pete track, the whole way there, we're booming out. Then when we get out, of course, I always work. I always volunteer at all the races. So I'm doing my thing, and him and his buddies are in my car. Well, the race is over, and we go to the car, and the car won't start. I'm like, oh, did you run the battery down? It wasn't the battery. We couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. Then a mechanic came over, and he goes, it's because you were booming so much, it vibrated the caps off my spark plugs. Anyhow, Steve's an amazing kid. Uh-oh. I only got one page left. I promise.
Okay.
Oh, shoot. Oh, darn. I knew he was gonna come and drag me off. And it's because I didn't. I said I'm gonna read this. That way it won't take that many minutes. I'm sorry, BA. No, I'm so sorry. Anyhow, when I started BMX, I was 25. I'm now 75. And one thing I gotta tell you. Yeah. One thing I gotta tell you is that I've had a really great time with the people from USA BMX. And nothing I hate more, because I'm a Facebook fanatic, nothing I hate more is when I get on Facebook and I hear somebody gripe and complain about the entry fees. Or, oh my God, membership went up $20. Excuse me, you guys are idiots. Membership went up $20 after, 20 years? But how high has your motel room gone? Huh? Let's just leave it at that. But one thing I want to say is I don't think it's so awful that membership went up, because I watch these guys that work for USA BMX, and I see how long they're at a race. I see what time they get there, and then I go take a nap. I come back, they're still doing their thing, and then it gets really late, and I finally say, okay, that's it, I'm going home, and they're still there working. So the USA BMX employees are the best that there is.
Alice Bixler, everybody. The heart and soul of USA BMX are our track operators. And if we had 300 Alice Bixlers, we would have 1 million members. So this passion is what everybody needs to feel. So, Alice, thank you for 50 years of service, and that was amazing. We loved all of your stories. So, thank you, Alice.
And in addition to that, next May we're going to have the final UCI Worlds Qualifier right here, 50 feet behind us. And that'll be the last qualifier for the World Cup in 2024. And that's actually going to be one of the key races for the last chance to qualify for the Olympics right here in this cool building. So let's move on to our next category. You know, last night we gathered in the museum. Gork has a wall back there. The back wall is called Game Changers, and it's for frames and bikes that made a big difference in the sport. And many people credit Dave Vander Spek as one of the game changers in all of freestyle. Every so often, somebody comes along that makes a giant difference, and our next inductee did that. Let's watch the Dave video.
On any Sunday in San Francisco's Golden Gate Park is where this story begins. You see, the park gets closed off to automobile traffic on Sundays to encourage use by cyclists in tight shorts and roller skaters in even shorter shorty shorts. Soon, skateboarders adopted Golden Gate Park Center Plaza as a place to perform some freestyle skating. And by 1983, BMX riders began to get in on the action. Among those early freestyle riders was a dirt jumper famous for doing somersaults on his BMX. But what really blew minds was his ability to pull off a perfectly flat tabletop from a bunny hop. The dude's name was Dave Vander Spek, and due to his skating background, his riding was a wild combo of skateboarding and BMX. To him, there were no limits, and if there was a barrier in his way, he'd no doubt break it. Vander, as most knew him as, formed his own bike skate team called the Curb Dogs and went on to organize the first half-pipe contest in Joe's backyard. He became the first rider to be sponsored for both skating and BMX at the same time. Dave was one of the original all-around riders, racing a pro, competing in King of the Skate Park contests, shredding it up on ramps, ground, or street, or even flying downhill at warp speeds aboard a janky GPV. He's credited for the Vander roll, invented the inverted bar endo, and was the first to do tail taps on a 20. If it was fun and had 2 or 4 wheels, count him in. As owner of the Curb Dogs, Dave was a rabid promoter, slapping his Bulldog logo wherever it fit. Dave took his fashion sense and street riding to a whole nother level. Yes, he put the curb in Curb Dogs, pulling skate maneuvers on his Skyway-equipped dyno. Wall rides at Embarcadero, outrageous bunny hops at Pier 39, or blasting ledge tricks around the urban oasis of San Francisco. Dave was street before street became a thing. Perhaps what's more mind-boggling is the fact that the Curb Dogs video on VHS was once available for rent at Blockbuster. There was no slowing down for Dave, and to the shock and awe of the entire BMX and skating community, he died in 1988 in his prime at age 24. But tonight, we celebrate the life and legacy of the captain of the Curb Dogs, the man who knew no boundaries, Dave Vander Spek.
Accepting on behalf of Dave Vander Spek is his teammate and friend, Maurice Meyer. Maurice.
What's up, you guys? Let's get a little love for Vander up here. My homie. All right. I feel like we should do like a 7-inning stretch type of thing, right? Do some calisthenics, get this fired up again. All right. I'll tell you what, if Vander was here, he'd be hanging from the rafters by now doing something crazy. If you knew Vander, I'm not even kidding, okay? Like, for real. So thanks, everyone, and especially thanks to the people at USA BMX for putting on this event and this amazing facility, which I thought I was prepared for, but I was not. This is the most incredible thing I've seen in a long time, and there's only a few over the years. This is one of those moments for me. So thank you for that. Thank you to everyone for coming, for sticking it out, for being here on behalf of Dave Vander Spek and all the other inductees. Who are all very well deserved, and I'm sure very proud to be here in front of you guys. I certainly am
representing my good friend Dave Vanderspeck. As you know, Dave was someone with an undying energy and enthusiasm for BMX. It was one of those things that just like exuded from him in everything he did. And it, you know, like they said on the intro, he skated, he raced, he did street, dirt, vert, GPV, anything for a laugh, for a thrill, for something. That was what Dave was for. He was about having a good time and enjoying himself. He made it fun. He made it fun for everybody around him. He was one of those kind of guys. He was the spark that would turn this place up and get everybody off their feet. He was that guy. He was also a tireless promoter. When he was only 20 years old, he was 19 when I met him, and right around 20 he was hitting his stride, and he was known for being the guy with the garage door open, and he had his ramps out. He had he's printing stickers, screening shirts, doing all that stuff. Little kids would come by. It's like Vander's house was the place to go to in San Leandro. And as they said, one of they showed the accomplishments there, but he set up and ran the first BMX Pro halfpipe contest at Joey Lopes' house, which coincidentally was the first location of the first skateboard Pro halfpipe contest. So Dave was that kind of guy straddling BMX and skateboarding when freestyle was trying to become its own thing. We were trying to differentiate from racing, to be honest. We were the little kid brother of racing. Racing was huge to us. We had our heroes. We went up, but a lot of us couldn't be that guy. We felt we were doing this, and it was a nature thing. We wanted to do our tricks, and we liked the jumping. We liked it, and it was just trying to become its own thing. And Dave, it wanted to be like skating a little bit, but we still had that connection. We wanted to be BMX too. We were trying to figure out where we were, and Dave helped straddle that. He made it cool. He made it fun. He gave a lot of people a feeling of belonging to something that they could call their own, right? And he made things happen. That was the thing. He was one of those guys, one of those like spark in the room type of people that was that infectious and magnetic, right? His energy just brought people in. And when he was, like I said, when he was only 20 years old, we're doing these BMX shows. We started our first show, I don't think we even had a trick ramp. And within a few months or something, Dave's like, okay, we got some more shows. Come drive across the bridge. Let's go do these shows. Dublin Cycling. I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. Me and my brother, I think, drove me then or something. And we show up, and he's got this like portable half pipe, right? He somehow wrangled a friend of his who had a flatbed trailer, built a half pipe so skating could happen in a half pipe environment, right? And we show up, and I'm just like, well, Vander, how'd you do this? You're 20 years old, man. Like, I'm only 2 years younger than you, but I'm nowhere ready to do this. So that was a big thing. He had the ability to draw people in with his personality and his enthusiasm, right? One of those things, the qualities that I didn't see as strong in a lot of people. One of the funny parts he did there was he drew my brother in. My brother was starting to be a professional guy. He had a skateboard model out, right? And he was the guy with a business suit on holding a briefcase, for Santa Cruz skateboards, right? He was the straight edge guy. And so Vander had him, somehow showed him a van, a milk truck van that was beat. It was totally beat. I mean, it was not safe for anybody to drive. And so we brought that to like 2 shows before it died. It's like he spray paints curb dogs on the side. He's doing wall rides on it. It's classic Vander fashion. Another thing that was like, why did that happen? And down the road, somebody created Border Burgers, a BMX and skateboard restaurant, right? It was a burger restaurant. And so they had pictures of Vander up there, full size, doing tricks on there, bikes and skateboards. And they would send the food out from the kitchen on a skateboard that was kind of on a rail, right? And this was 87 or something, right? So he, like I said, people around him just got this jazz. This guy made his burger restaurant around Dave. He also had this, on a bike, he had this uncommon, offbeat kind of creativity, right? He would see things in a bike that a lot of us didn't see. Like when we were at, like they said, the bar endo was a staple trick of the 80s, right? And Vander created that in 1983 when all of us, probably kids around the world, I would say too, and 20 of us or so meeting together and
beating endo tricks into the ground. Like, how many versions of an endo can you do, right? The most basic thing, get up on the front wheel. Okay, take a hand off, take a foot off, do this. We thought we were done with it. I remember getting sick of it. I'm like, I'm tired of back hops, I'm tired of endos. We got other stuff to do here, you know? And Dave does this, reverses the bars. And the first time all of us saw it, like in the context of the times, we're like how... That's not supposed to work. Like, it's an endo. Endos are easy. This is a basic trick. And he cranks it the other way. We're like, the bike should fall. How that guy's got a giant arm. He must be, you know, Superman. Like, that's how it was to all of us watching this thing come out of nowhere, you know. So he thought differently, right? He obviously the Vander roll. I was thinking about it, and I can't think of another trick that belongs in the category of the Vander roll, right? It's its own thing, you know. Nobody else could make something as odd as that, right? It's completely owned by him. No one's done a variation of it. No one's touched it. It's remained the Vander roll with, you know, as its own thing. And then, you know, that transferred into street riding. We saw him do, you know, he would ride around the street. And, I mean, at first we're going to get parked, and he starts wall riding on the side of a bus just because it's kind of going by slow. And the guy hits the wall. We're like, what are you doing, dude? Like, he's riding the wall. We're on the bus, you know, okay. And then we get downtown, and one of the things that never made, I can't believe we never caught a picture of this in the magazines, but I was trying to do tech tricks, you know, doing little nose picks, little back hops, what became the abubico was the stair thing, you know, we'd do. And all of a sudden, like, one time we go riding, and he comes up, and he gets up front wheel, does a nose pick way up on a mailbox, like on those blue mailboxes. He's like in there fully tucked up like this, like when nobody else could do it on that, you know. He's twice as high. And so, you know, he'd come out of nowhere with things. And he, part of that, you know, and that just generated excitement. It made you think there was more to do. There was more. We hadn't thought of everything yet. You know, in 1984, 85, we're thinking we're running out of stuff to do or something, right? We got all those one-handed, one-footed variation, you know. Dave was also, I guess, what you would call incorrigible, right? He was that guy that would set the firecrackers off and throw them back at your car while you're following him, you know, stuff like that. He was that guy, right? And I'm telling you, he for real would have been up on the rafters here if he was with us today. One of the funniest stories to me was when we went to England the first time in 1984 with Skyway, on a Skyway tour. 3 of us from the U.S., 3 of us from the U.K. are in the van, right? And we pull up to Windsor Castle, you know. Like, oh, cool, this is history, English. We get out of the van, we start milling out, and Vander just beelines right to the statue. You know, there's this huge, little sort of like a roundabout thing where the cars would go around the statue. Vander runs up to it. He gets on the shoulders. And I found out later this is a statue of the Queen. Okay, like you probably shouldn't do this, Dave. You know, like he's up there, and before anybody could catch him, you know, it's like the kid that runs away, you know, from their parents, right? He gets up there on the statue, straddling her shoulders, just beating his chest and doing Tarzan yell. He's like, ah, you know, doing that thing and just yelling out. And this cab driver, it's the funniest thing in the world. This cab driver just happened to be driving around, and he's like this Cockney guy, and I swear to God, the view I saw was hilarious. He sticks his head out the window, he cranes his head out, he's just like, and he has this deep Cockney accent. He's like, you'll get bloody hanged for that, you know? And I mean, and I think, you know, now that I'm older and an adult, I'm like, what did the UK guys think of this at the time? Oh my God, we're the worst Americans ever, you know? And yeah, if you know, I'll apologize to the Queen and all the subjects of the Commonwealth if there was any, you know, issue with that. But it was truly from Dave's exuberance and joy at being in your country. So, you know, I hope that's okay. Another event like that, which for me was kind of funny, was the GPV contest, as you showed, where Vander's doing the downhill stuff. We road tripped it from San Francisco down there in the Skyway van. I forget, we had a bunch of people. We always threw people in that van. You know, we get there late or something, you know, get to bed. The next morning, I'm like, you know, waking up. I'm like, I hear Vander, wake up. And I open my eyes. I'm like, Jesus, it's snowing in here. What the hell? You know, it's snowing. Like, what's going on? You know, and like, the hell? He just lit the fire extinguisher off and blasted the whole room with a fire extinguisher. The way, you know. Then he's on the roof jumping into the pool. You know, that's Dave, right? I would always tell people, like, we'd ask how Dave was. I said, he's often embarrassing but never boring. You know, the guy he was awesome. Dave was a great guy to be around. In France, he had this thing that like younger riders gravitated towards him because he was so cool to younger kids, and he was just such the goofball. And we pulled up in France one time. He just gets right out of the car, and pretty soon he's on a skateboard doing handstands, and then he's riding some guy's moped backwards, like doing the thing, you know, and all of a sudden these kids are all around him. They're going like this to me. They're little clown, like doing the nose, you know, like clown, you know, and they loved him. But he also supported the kids locally, which now you think of it like growing the sport and how far it's come. You're just like, he was just naturally doing this stuff. Like no one told him, you know, hey man, be cool to kids and try to encourage and bring people up. And the kids that would come around his garage, eventually he starts this like junior curb dogs thing, you know. I'm like, Vander, what's that? And they started doing the openers at the shows, you know, and the kids were jazzed. And I've had several people just come up to me in adult life and just say, you know, man, Dave was the one guy that was really cool to me when I was a little kid. And like, it made me love riding my bike. And it gave me, you know, and, you know, people tell you their stories and, you know, they get that thing in their eye where they're just like, you know what, this guy was really, really an influence on me. And I think that's an amazing thing because I can't say a lot of us got to that level or were that natural at doing that, right? So, you know, Dave, he would have loved to be here right now, and he would have loved to see what's going on with BMX. He would have been as blown away as I am at this whole event and at everybody coming here, for people for voting for him, seeing that track behind there, seeing the whole thing. He would have been mind blown. He would have seen the riding that goes on these days, seeing the level of riding, seeing the enthusiasm, seeing the DIY thing that we all felt turn into this, like, you can post your video online and the world can see what you're doing if you want. You don't have to be near the magazines. You can, you know, just so many things that, you know, the number of skate parks, for example. I know a few years back, maybe 10 years back, I was talking to Eddie Roman. And we said, man, these skate parks, these guys are so lucky. They got all these skate parks. And Eddie Roman said to me, he said, yeah, man, you know, if we had these skate parks, we might not have invented street. I was like, yeah, you're kind of right, huh? That goes out of an accident because we were bored, like a lot of it, you know. So anyway, I want to just thank everybody on behalf of Dave Vander Speck. He would have loved to have been here, like I said. The one thing... It's tough to try to do this, to be in his shoes, because I can't fill his shoes. The only thing that I do want to say on his behalf, that if he was here, I don't know if everybody knew that Dave was adopted. He was he was an only child, and he was adopted. And he loved his parents, Dave and Mary Vander Speck. So if there's any, I could go on and on about people to thank. He had 1 million sponsors, but his parents, he loved them. And they were so cool about giving him the space to be him and do what he wanted to do. So if there's any shout out from Dave, I'm going to have to give it to the people who do that for kids that need that. Some people who foster, people who, you know, would take someone in and give them their name. The Vander Speck name is a Dutch name. I've talked to people from Holland, in the Netherlands, you know, that they like to say, if it ain't Dutch, it ain't much, you know. Vander was the Flying Dutchman. It was all appropriate. So, you know, in closing, I just want to say thank you again for everything, and also thank you to Dave Vander Speck. You had a great effect on a lot of people. I don't think you knew it. You really were a force in the 5 years you had with us as a BMX superstar. We miss you, Dave. We love you. Bark hard, curb dog. Right on. Thank you.
Here's something kind of cool. A fourth of our inductees tonight are females. Back in 2006, 5'4", there was maybe one, usually none. And these are not just females, these are women of strength. And they didn't want to just watch from the sideline, they participated. They volunteered not just their time, but they gave their lives to something. It's a sport that they fell in love with, just like we all did. This year's female inductee was a racer, but with a throttle. She was a freestyler, a skater, an early snowboarder, but more importantly, she was a rad mother. And not just to her own kids, but a mom to the many riders that she had under her umbrella. To the hundreds of thousands of fans and spectators who watched her in awe at one of Gail Webb's Kids Are #1 action sports shows. Gail Webb made a big difference, and I'm excited to watch this video. Roll 'em.
Considered the main mom of action sports, Gail Webb and her talented showmen and women have been entertaining the masses since the mid-'80s. But where did this skateboarding, BMX freestyling mom come from? Well, before helping create what is now known as action sports, Gail was one of America's fastest women motocross racers, as well as an accomplished snowboarder, skateboarder, and inline skater. She was one of those rare parents who decided to join their kids in their wild escapades rather than just watching them from the sidelines. In the August 1988 issue of Transworld Skateboarding, Webb was celebrated as the matriarch in an article titled Skateboarding Mom. By the mid-'80s, with solid support from Malcolm Smith Racing, she had created the Gail Webb Extreme Sports Show with a slogan that is still used today: Kids are #1. In her shows, she included extreme athletes from all realms, teaming up BMXers, skateboarders, and inline skaters to ride her portable ramps and perform the most extreme tricks of the times. Recruiting top talent from freestylers Eddie Fiola and Martin Aparijo to skaters Primo and Di or quad skater Fred Blood, Gail Webb shows were chock full of talent. But there was more to her shows than just jaw-dropping tricks and big air on the halfpipe. Gail always provided inspirational messages to the kids in the crowd, including say no to drugs or stay in school, along with positive life lessons of being kind to others and never giving up. Gail has been putting on action sports shows at schools and major venues such as Knott's Berry Farm for over 43 years. That's right, 43 years. She is also Van Shoe's longest sponsored team, getting support from the Van Doren family as soon as they invented the familiar waffle sole. Recently, in November of 2022, the city of Menifee, California held the grand opening of a 6-acre bike park with a pump track, which was named in her honor. The Gail Webb Kids Are #1 Action Sports Park. In 2019, she was inducted into the Skateboarding Hall of Fame. And tonight, it's her turn to become a member of the BMX Hall of Fame in the women's category. So stand up and stomp the soles of your Vans tennies as we bring up to the stage, Gail Webb.
What I talk to? Oh, I do. I answered my own question. I have to do this because I actually can't see you, but I can hear you. I can hear you. And that means so much to you. Thank you for all your cheers. We've been doing a lot of cheers for the past almost 50 years. I almost lost my life in a skydiving accident, and when doctors told me I'd never do anything pretty much anymore. I was very lucky. I won't go into the whole story, but I made it. And, you know, I don't remember a whole lot of things sometimes, but that's okay. I remember my kids, and I had a plan. I was in sports almost all my life. When I was a young kid, I loved sports. But in my day, parents were like, what do you want a bike for? What do you want a skateboard? What are you going to do with that? And it was a lot of negative, you know, and I remember growing up going, man, when I really grow up, I'm going to do something about this. I'm going to try to change people's minds. Kids are kids. When I call even all the riders in my shows, they're kids, they're boys, they're men, but back to boys again. I see all of you out there. It doesn't make any difference what age you are. You just get out there and have a good time. And most of the time it's with your kids. It's positive. And I wanted to install that, so I have the greatest husband in the world. I lost him a few years ago, my Jim. And he's watching now. I just know it. But if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be standing here in front of you. I had a vision. I had a plan. And it was to go out, build some little ramps, get a ghetto blaster, music. So we went under the Huntington Beach Pier, and I turned it on as loud as I could. I grabbed a skateboard because that was one of my first things. And of course the kids are like, yeah, granny on a skateboard, or whatever. But I rode that thing. I fell off that thing. But I learned from it, and I showed parents that were passing by, and there was a big crowd that circled around. We had the music. I had a little mic, and I'm telling the parents, like, these are kids, these are girls and boys, and they want to ride skateboards, and bikes came along. I go, man, we need bigger ramps. That's what my husband always said. And I just said to you, if I didn't have Jim, I wouldn't be here right now, because every few months, I'd sit in the living room or watching TV, and I'm going, Jim. He never said no to me, and I knew it, and I said, we need a bigger ramp. Like 6 months later, Jim, remember that bigger ramp? It's too small now. We need another bigger ramp, because the riders are getting better and better. And I brought a couple of notes here, but I just want to... There's so much. As you can tell, I'm pushing 80 here. And I have a lot of experience. I've had a lot of dreams. I've had a lot of everything. And I want to thank some of the people that brought me here. It was Eddie and Mindy Fiola. I see Bob Morales, my sister Alice, family back home, Bob Morales and his girlfriend right there. These are only two of my riders, and a lot of you were my riders in my shows. I've spent a couple of days here with tears in my eyes, and I couldn't believe it. Like I said, boys to men and boys again. And my whole life, I wanted to get bigger and bigger crowds, so I went to sponsors like American Honda. In the meantime, I was racing motocross. I got a little bit better. I raced motocross, skateboarding. I dropped into pools, and you saw the still pictures. But I created a lot of people like, oh my gosh, because I can hear them in the crowds like, how old are you? Or I'm 42, but I love dropping in a pool. So it was kind of I was proud of it, but I found that the parents wanted to know more, and I knew it was my chance to say, look, parents, moms and dads, and kids too, get out there and try the things in life that make you feel good about yourself, just like you're doing right now. Get out there. Whatever you choose, I don't care if you're an artist, you want to paint. Girls, I really always try to get girls into the shows. I had Cara Beth Burnside, one of the top skateboarders. Back then, people went, a girl skateboarder, you know that. Well, I wanted to change those attitudes, and we did it. With all the hundreds of riders we've had through the years, we traveled all over the United States. We have done thousands of school shows, and I am on the mic. If I had one right now, it's everything I said was, please yell out, kids are number one. Let's try it right now. 1, 2, 3. I want to cry when I hear that. I really do, and I'm not a crybaby. But the things that I care most about is I don't care how old you are. My riders learned that standing up on the ramp, like, how long is she going to talk? But they were unbelievable. You know, Eddie Fiola, Bob Morales. Gosh, I knew I was going to get so many of the names. I would love just to take a couple minutes, because if they would just come around, I'd like to try something real quick, if you will allow me. But I'm talking to all you, and it's not like I'm convincing you to go out and try things. You're here. You are all part of my dream. And I've just been here probably longer than most of you. So when we toured all the Six Flags Magic Mountain shows, Knott's Berry Farm, everywhere we can touch kids, and especially the schools. I made notes tonight. I'm not even reading any of my notes. You know, I don't even need my glasses right now to read the notes. So that's a goal of mine. But no. But everywhere we went, especially the schools, the principals couldn't believe some of the messages, and I'm proud of my messages because I believe in them. Almost losing your life was time enough, but to think that you might not be able to do something, then you finally conquer it. You all know what that feels like. Every one of you, no matter what you do in life, it makes you happy. It makes you feel so good inside. You're getting a little bit about me right now because this is what I generated in my schools. We're talking grade schools with little kindergartners all the way to colleges. You know, and I always felt a little funny when I'm grabbing a skateboard or my bicycle. Or I loved it all. I competed in USASA snowboarding. I just love sports. But again, I wanted to change the minds of some of the negative things that we all know that go on, especially within the parents that maybe don't understand how important it is to a child, a young boy or girl, to want to ride a bike. Not just on the cement anymore like we did in the old days, but everything, the waves, the ramps. So that's why I wanted to build ramps, and we did it. And I want to thank Jim again, because about every 7 to a year and a half, I'd go, Jim? He goes, yeah. And he just looks at me with a little smile. This really happens. You can ask all my family. We need another big ramp. And it went like that forever. I'd like to just, if I could real quick, if you could come up real quick. Eddie was shaking his head no, but if I can get Bob Morales and Eddie Phil up here right now, they can help. I just would like to tell some of the names of the riders. But when you go home tonight, spread the word to other people that don't understand what we've been doing and what the show's meant to these young kids that literally, I found Eddie when he was like maybe 14 or 15, and Bob almost the same thing. But you know some of the names. Maybe if you could name some of the names in my show that everybody...
Scott Freeman.
Yeah, we have Tony Hawk, Ryan Scheckler, a lot of the skateboarders, Sean White, Mike Dominguez, Brian Blyther, all these guys all did shows for Gail, Martin Aparijo, Woody Itzen, all these guys. You don't understand what Gail has done. It was like, she might not be the best motocrosser, but she is the best motocrosser that rides skateboards. And then she rides skateboards better than any motocrosser. And then she also rides snowboards. And she was also a downhill mountain biker, one of the first downhill mountain bikers. There's so many things that Gail has done, and especially, you know, as her parachute didn't open and she crash landed, you know, and that's where she found this thing that she wanted to do was extreme sports and tell the kids that they are number one.
If you were in the show right now and you're in the audience or you were one of my riders, when you were looking at that crowd, this is the first time I've ever done this. I promise I've never called my riders up, and I've done a lot of interviews, but I get excited. And but what do you guys think that the crowd was thinking when they were watching bike riders, skateboarders, inline skaters doing flips? And
they were blown away. They hadn't seen it before. I mean, we were doing this back in the early 80s.
Gail was literally the first extreme sports show.
Yep.
Yeah.
And she inspired the AFA,
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. You're on your own.
I'm on my own. Uh-oh.
She
okay.
got one more thing to say.
Okay. I am. I'm going to look real quick here. But again, I want to thank... I've been with Steve Van Dorn and Christy Van Dorn. I believe Steve Van Dorn was here last year and accepted the award. And I've become pretty good family with them, being with them for so long. And when they met me, I had to have 2 different sizes because I had broken legs and whatever. But my shoe sizes were a little bit big, and they're like, "What? And you're riding a skateboard?" And so it was something like I was one of the first. But now so many girls are getting into the sports and the guys, and it's so awesome to see girls out there. But anyway, I won't keep you any longer. I love what I do, and I love all of you, even though I haven't met all of you. All through these 2 days, I've been shaking because I've been so excited, because you are family, and kids are number one, and kids never, ever, ever give up. Follow your goals and dreams. Make them come true. And remember, the only one that can ever stop you from achieving your dream is you. So get back up, try. Kids are number one. Let me hear you. Woo! And thank you so much for the BMX Hall of Fame and these young people, these guys. And I can go forever, but I love you. Goodbye. And I love you. Kids are number one. Kids are number one.
All right, Gail called me young. I appreciate that. Come back next year. Hey, we're going to wrap up here. We're winding down, but we're going to wind up pretty tightly first. You know, we all know pros who were the pros were great for our sport because they provided this thing called emulation. We wanted to be like them. And we would buy jerseys and bikes like them. And we all know pros who won a title. We know a few that won a couple of titles, like Pete and probably Brian. I don't know all of them. Maybe Joris has won a few. But anybody know who's won 3 in a row? One guy has won 3 in a row. And tonight we get to honor one of the most prolific people to ever set foot on a bicycle. And it is such an honor to roll this film of Bubba Harris as we induct him into the Hall of Fame tonight. Watch the lights.
Once upon a time, back in 1992, a young kid from Lancaster, California fell in love with BMX. This kid, named Bubba Harris, quickly began making a name for himself, racking up a collection of #1 plates while representing AXO and Answer. He was surrounded with great family support, so much so that his father, Berlin, began traveling all over the country, putting on BMX clinics as a full-time job. Bubba was always right there on the road, teaching kids alongside the celebrity pro of the moment. Whether it was Richie Anderson, Scooney, Ken Cools, Kamikaze, or others, Bubba and his best friend and fellow teammate, Mikey Day, were constantly assisting at clinics while also learning from the best in the BMX biz. Doing super camp clinics all across North America, riding on hundreds of different tracks and schooling thousands of super camp kids over the years would not only fine-tune Bub's BMX skills, but also build him a massive fan base. After an illustrious amateur career with a brand new factory Redline sponsorship, Bubba was given the green light to turn pro at age 16. He was among the new breed of AA pros who'd been clipped into their pedals from the start. They were the next generation of teens who'd bring a whole new skill set to the pro class. Earning a Golden Crank for Rookie Pro of the Year in 2002, and then collecting Pro of the Year honors for the next 3 seasons, Harris was quickly working his way to the top of the pro ranks. But just as he was hitting his groove, bad news struck back at home. Bubba's mom, Anita, was diagnosed with cervical cancer. Despite her situation, she encouraged Bubba to keep racing and to win one for her. And so he did. No other rider at that time had better motivation to win than he. And it was during the ABA World Championships weekend, on July 31st, 2003, that Bubba lost his mom. Although devastated, her memory motivated him even more. Rather than having his name on the back of his Redline jersey, Bubba had them put, "In memory of Anita." Thus, right before stepping up on the national stage to accept his first of 3 #1 pro championships, Bubba turned his jersey around for the world to see who he'd won it for. For the next few years, Bubba was the definition of on fire. He'd become the first pro to ever win 3 consecutive pro titles in the ABA. He won the UCI World Champs in 2005, and his Bubba Harris signature series of Redline bikes and Lizard Skid signature grips were selling like hotcakes. So when the IOC announced that BMX racing was becoming the newest Olympic sport, take a good guess who instantly became Team USA's greatest hope for a future medal. Unfortunately, in an untimely crash 1 year before the 2008 Beijing Olympic Games, Bubba suffered a serious ankle injury at the test event in China. While he'd never come back as strong as he once was, Harris continues to do clinics to this day and still coaches and trains some of the best BMXers in the sport. He married his longtime BMX sweetheart, Casey, and have raised their 2 daughters and eventually met his true calling as a youth pastor. His passion for BMX and helping out kids is just as strong today as it was when he was 9 years old. So stand up and salute your modern-day racer inductee into the class of 2023, Bubba Harris.
Man, BMX is rad, huh? Yeah, BMX is rad. Man, first off, I just want to thank Jesus. My Lord and Savior for who He is, for what He accomplished on the cross and made possible for, man, a broken man like me. I get a way into heaven because of Him. Because I know I've made decisions in my life that have disqualified me, so I'm stoked on Jesus, that's for sure. And you'll hear that tonight. But no, I'm just so pumped that BMX is a part of my story. Over the last 10 years as a Christ follower, I definitely have learned that like one of the greatest gifts that God has given every single one of us, apart from Christ, and His accomplished work on the cross, is our story and how we can use our story to, point people towards a God who loves them, who adores them, and went to infinite lengths just to have a relationship with them. And so I hope and pray tonight that as I get to humbly share my story, that you hear Jesus, and you might get curious about who He is. Maybe open up this darn book for yourself, for sure. But I got to get right into it because I know there's so many stories to share and people to thank. And first and foremost, I want to thank my wife, Casey. Casey and I have, basically a BMX dream relationship. It really is true. Our first time meeting, we were at Reno, Nevada at the Silver Dollar Nationals, and Casey came up to me and asked for my number plate. I didn't have a number plate, so I gave her my pads. Those pads are still in our closet, like up in a little Bubba box, on top of it. But ever since that moment, she spent 3 years chasing me around. I remember being in San Antonio at the ABA Worlds in San Antonio and literally hiding in the bathroom and asking Mike Day and Paul Lang, hey, has the crazy girl gone? That's outside the bathroom yet? But no, next thing you know, we're 14 and 15 years old. We started dating, and it has been amazing ever since. I've fallen in love with her every single day since I was 15 years old. That is the truth. And the mercy and the grace that she shows me as a wife every single day is unmatched. And so many of you that really know me, especially the guys sitting at this table, that really know me, that know I would be in a whole lot of trouble if it weren't for my wife. That's for sure. And look at what she's given me, right? Those 2 beautiful women sitting next to her. My daughters, Layla and Chloe, are 11 and 13 now, which is crazy to me. I tried to get him to start riding, to start racing. I'd bring him to when I was coaching. I coached Lexi Colby for a little while, and my girls loved to go hang out with Lexi, and they'd take a lap, and they'd be over it, right away. And one time they took, a couple diggers, both of them, and that was it. But they kill it on the soccer field. They're amazing school. But girls, what I think I'm more proud of you two than anything else is how you love people and how you love Jesus, because that's what's going to change this world, and you guys have that on lock. And so just so thankful for my daughters. Keep going with my family. My mom, obviously, you guys saw, and so many of you guys know the story about my mom. She was always such a pillar of strength in my family's life. I know that definitely seeped down into me and definitely my sisters as well. I want to thank my sisters. I have 3 sisters. Each of them rock stars in their own right, and each of them definitely as strong as my mom was, which is so awesome. It's so awesome to see them become mothers of their own and just raise their families. I was blessed with an amazing family, that's for sure. And last up in that family, dude sitting right there, Berlin Harris. Everybody knows Berlin Harris and what he has done for the sport of BMX. So yeah, we can definitely clap for that guy. What can I say about my pops? There's not a lot of dads, that would just give up everything that they had going because they saw an opportunity, to spend some time with their son. And he saw an opportunity in the BMX world. There's kind of a hole in the sport for coaching, and he filled it with Super Camp. And to this day, Super Camp is still one of the most consistent professional BMX coaching programs in the world, not only in the USA. And it's all because of him, that I was able to travel the country and go from one BMX track to the next BMX track to the next BMX track, getting comfortable and having to ride with men like Chris Schoonover and try to keep up with them. It's because of that program, that I really do believe I progressed in the way I progressed. And Dad, I love you, bro. You are one of my best friends in the whole entire world, and I cannot even express enough how thankful I am for the time that we got to spend on the road together. It was absolutely amazing. I'll go straight from Super Camp into Supercross and Bill Ryan, this dude right here. Yeah, man. Bill Ryan is like family, BMX family. That's Supercross's thing, and he lives it. He lives it hard, and I just want to thank Bill for always being there, and for being and one of the most innovative minds in BMX. That's what Supercross is known for, and that is the truth, man. I think I'll just go straight into my career. I showed up at the BMX track at 7 years old on my 7th birthday, and I fell in love right away. I didn't even have my bike, but I was watching Thunder Danny Nelson, right, get rad over the first jump, and from that moment on, I was hooked. We went home, grabbed my bike, and signed up right away. A year later, I'm showing up at Bone's house. I was that kid that would show up at Redmond's house. Before I even got off the exit to Coal Canyon, I had my full gear on, my helmet on, my gloves on, ready to rock. I'd jump out of the van, and Redbone would be like, oh my gosh, it's Bubba, and he's already ready to train. But no, and then Bone obviously would go on to be, one of my coach and my mentors for my whole entire career. When I started coaching with Bone and then riding with Bone when I was 8 years old, he walked me all the way through my professional career. So to be up here with me and Bone behind me is just, it's absolutely amazing. That dude is one of the most important dudes in my life, Redbone was, for sure. No, but then you go on from that, and you have the Answer Days, right, where my dad was a team manager for the Answer team. And what an amazing team to be on as a kid and as a rider. We had Mike Day, Paul Lang, the Stats brothers. We had pros on that team like Chris Schoonover to look up to and to try and ride like. And that's one thing that I was super blessed with at a young age, is my dad definitely believed in, me pulling a little bit from every single coach. So I learned how to pedal from Richie Anderson. That dude knew how to pedal for sure. But I learned how to ride the track and love my bike and learn how to manual and do rad lines in the rhythm section from dudes like Chris Schoonover and the other trainers at Super Camp. So those Answer Days with the boys were amazing, man. Our old team was legendary, and my dad was the team manager growing up for that team, and so just the whole family feel back in the day was so good. And then we move on from there, and I jump on with Redline. Those Redline days were epic. They definitely were, and I can't thank Gork enough. I know you're in here somewhere, Gork, but Gork, and for what he does for BMX, man, can we give it up for that guy? For sure, yeah. When Gork gave me the opportunity to jump onto Redline, it was a dream come true, riding for Redline bicycles and then getting a signature frame. All that stuff was awesome, but really, man, it was his promise to have my back when I was ready to turn pro. And that came pretty quick, right? I jumped on Redline when I was 14 years old. Next thing you know, just jumping in the professional ranks. And that is definitely one thing I do want to do, is just thank all the dudes I raced with. Because I jumped in that class as a 16-year-old, and man, those guys were men. And they were super scary. I remember getting in the gate but being behind the gate and looking up at Robert DeVilde. as I was 16 years old, and this is just huge dude, burly dude with this big old beard. No, but they all welcomed me really with grace, and they were so fun to race against. And the cool thing is all the guys that I grew up watching, like your Christoph Levesques and your Thunder Danny Nelsons, I got to get in the gate with those guys and race them, and that was definitely just such an honor. It really was. No, but I had a really rad career. I was able to do some really cool stuff on the track. I have so many things that, man, I want to bring up and memories that I want to share. But I think most of all, what I was just so proud of is just BMX in general, and being the racer that I turned into, I guess. But no, I'm sorry. I'm losing myself up here. But it's all right. I think, the very end of the career was tough, though, right? We all saw the video of me crashing in China. And after that was tough because, man, I had really kind of held my identity together as a BMX racer. And that's kind of who I saw myself as, was Bubba Harris, the BMXer. And after that crash, there was a little bit of a rough season. And I'm just so thankful that in that season is where my wife met Jesus. Because, I had built myself up and I had found my identity in my bicycle for so many years that when I lost the ability to be on top of the podium, I kind of lost who I was for a little bit. And next thing you know, I show up at church with my wife, and I didn't even want to be there, because if you know my story, you know about my mom, and I had watched my mom build a relationship with Christ at the end of her life. And I was kind of mad at Jesus, but then I ended up showing up at church, and I listened to the pastor talking, and he simply says this verse right here. He says, seek the kingdom of God above all else and live righteously, and he will give you everything you need, so don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will bring its own worries. Today's trouble is enough for today. And in that moment, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't know if I wanted to coach BMX. I didn't know if I wanted to continue to try and race BMX. I didn't know what I was going to do for a living. But I opened up this book, and as soon as I opened up this book, man, my life changed. I started reading about Jesus, and I opened up this book, and I read it like it was Lord of the Rings. I was just always a big reader, and I just wanted to meet the guy that the dude was talking about. And when I opened up this book, everything changed for me. I learned to love BMX again. For a little while there, I was hating coaching, and I was hating going to the track. And once I met Jesus, man, I fell in love with BMX again. I fell in love with being at the track and hanging out with the kids, and realized what a gift it was that he blessed me with, that I was able to be there and do that. And I was hanging out, loving coaching, but at the same time, I was serving at our student ministry at church, and I was just trying to figure out how can I do that at the BMX track. And during those conversations, they were like, well, why don't you just come and do it here? And so I did, and I learned how to fight for Jesus for 2.5 years. And then last year I came back to the BMX track, and I coached at Black Mountain for the first time, sent the kids up to the track, and I just shared Jesus with the parents that were there. And from that moment on, I was like, kind of, what are you doing? Why aren't you at the track? And so now I'm just fully back at the BMX track with one mission. That's to love on BMXers and point them to the finish line as fast as I can, but also point them to Jesus as fast as I can. And so that's what I'm doing. And I'm so excited to be back at the track, and I'm so honored and humbled for this. Man, thank you all so much. God bless everybody. Good night.
We're going to wrap up in a moment. I'm going to bring Shane Fernandez up. You are the greatest dream of your ancestors. You don't have to go back very far to find a group of people in your family that don't have it like we have it here tonight. And you got to be the greatest dream of your ancestors, and you fulfilled your own while simultaneously fulfilling theirs. And I call part of this the Brotherhood, and I'm not going to talk a long time, but we're all in it. You track operators are planting trees whose shade you may never sit in, but you're doing something for the generation behind us. and that is admirable, and that's what makes the Brotherhood strong. The Brotherhood is about being a champion at life, and when a friend of yours wants to get married, you show up, and when one of your friends loses a family member, 300 of you show up to pay your respects because the Brotherhood is strong. And it's beautiful, like Alice mentioned, that we have true friendships from this. And it is written that where you go, I will go. And where you stay, I too will stay. And your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Because the Brotherhood is strong, and you're in it. Every track operator, every racer, every parent, every mechanic, everybody sitting in this room, every employee at USA BMX, we all get to be part of something special. And every time that we do that, we build more for the future. And so, man, hearing the talks tonight, I'm 62 years old. I've been on a bicycle since I was 10. And I'm just as excited about it today, and I'm sure I've never matured past 10. But man, I love being on a bike. How far can a bicycle take you? One day we all get to see the other side, and Mike and Renny and Dave are going to be there smiling, telling us, great race, champion. So BMX is who we are and what we do, and I'm the luckiest kid in the world. Let's bring up a man with a great vision, the man who saw this through, Mr. Shane Fernandez. Thank you guys for being here tonight.
How about we give it up for Cash Matthews, right? Yeah, all right. Hey, first off, congratulations. I'm going to keep saying this. The Hall of Famers, everybody in this room, I'm your biggest fan. I've raced all of you in my mind when I was a kid. I'm from SoCal, I'm from Hollywood. I told Eddie, and you guys are all sick of this story, but I literally used to sit next to Eddie as a nobody at Pipeline on my RL20 Redline. You guys are so inspirational. So really, I know I'm standing between you, the bar, and the after party. I just need 3 minutes. And what I want to talk about is really my job, which is to take everything you've built. Gail, I've been to some of those shows as a nobody on my bike at the pier with my BMX bike, and here we all are, right? It's serendipitous. So I want to talk a little bit about where BMX is going based on what we're seeing. How many of you would have thought this is possible, this building? Right? No. But it's all built on your stories. Because when we came to Tulsa, and Tulsa, the citizens of Tulsa decided to put, this is appraised now probably for $35 million. The community decided to build this, and we just told the story of BMX. We told all of your stories, and the people in the community understood it, the schools understood it. So I want to share with you a little bit about some of the things we see as we continue the story of BMX, right? So I always ask myself, how as a collective team, all of us, are we inspiring others about our epic sport? And more importantly, how are we getting and attracting new riders to get more kids on bikes, right? So with this, how many of you were here last year? Yeah, all right. So some of you may have heard this, but this is kind of cool. We've the headquarters has only been open for 18 months, right? But what we're going to talk a little bit about are the things that the team and you all and the headquarters are generating, because I can't wait to stand here a year from now and tell you where we've gone and that, right? So on the racing side, the team retained 6,400 of the new members that came in during COVID. For all the track operators out there, you know, COVID drove people to BMX to get outside, right, to get to the tracks. How awesome is that you all, the track operators and our team, of those 6,400, we've retained those. And right now, pre-pandemic, so 2019, we look at those membership numbers, we're still 5,400 members above those 2019 pre-pandemic. So thank you all for doing that, because you're inspiring the kids. How about the Freestyle series? That's been up for 3 years. We've had 2,850 participants on the Freestyle series. Ryan has been a big part of that and the vision of that. Thank you, Coach Ryan, as I call you. But listen to this. In 3 years, we've had 23 countries come here to enter that. And our team, when UCI this year canceled 2 of the C1s that impact the Olympic standings, our team decided, you know what, let's run it. So in 2 weeks, we'll be running the Amateur National Freestyle Championships, but we will also be running the C1s, 2 C1s for UCI, so our riders have a better chance to be prepared for Paris. How cool is that? right? I will also say this is the same team that before Tokyo, and Ryan will remember this, when the whole world was shut down, we safely ran a C1 for the freestyler, getting ready for Tokyo Olympics. So, you know, from the amateurs, the 3-year-olds to the Olympians, our team's committed to make sure United States has the biggest number of BMXers and the best number of BMXers on the planet. This HQ, in 18 months, 80,000 people have come through this facility to check out BMX. A third of those are racers, which tells you the other 2/3 are people who are just wanting to understand what is going on with BMX. 542 new memberships. Over 40 different corporations have booked events here or tours here where they hang out in the classroom, they're in the Hall of Fame, they're hearing all your stories, your pictures are on the walls, but then they're renting the track and they're going out there, they're riding the track, and now as I hang out on that deck, I see business leaders coming back with their kids because they're inspired by you all. So I just want to make sure when you leave here, you remember that. The foundation, and you guys know we've been running with that. One of the things that our foundation struggled with is how do you make that scalable? How do you take that and really push it through the rest of the United States? The first, in 18 months, our first spring break, we had 6 kids. Brooke Crane, we threw it to the wind, we had 6 kids. Summer 2022, we had 290 kids. This summer, our foundation had 4,750 daily activations for BMX kids. So I always ask myself, I ask our team, you know, what's possible? Where could BMX be if we just changed the way, if we thought bigger? How many of you knew that the House Appropriations Committee at the White House was going to try to cut funding to all parks in 2024? That's a big deal for BMX. We are now on the National Parks Board, and we fought and wrote letters to senators to stop that, and we saved that. We got the funding back. So in 2024, that funding is still for the parks. So what's interesting is the conversation. You see this, and I remember when and my team will remember this, right? When we were building this, I'd go to Arizona and I'd show photos of this, and I'd say, well, it's really hard for me to show you a photo. You got to stand in it. I mean, you just got to stand in it, right? So y'all are getting it, but guess who else is getting it? Other cities. So last year, if you were here, I talked about ABA has launched an architecture and development initiative called ABA Ethos. You've probably seen the logos kind of randomly. We are designing now mega parks like this. And BMX is always the tip of the spear, but what's interesting is our portfolio allows us to build offices, multi-purpose event centers, freestyle parks, downhill courses. We are also working with other NGBs, USA Triathlon, another one that's big, I can't say right now, but it's amazing what's happening with your story and the ripple effect that it's creating. So all of this is coming back, and all of that, all this energy and the park. So when you look at this, if I were to tell you one of the sketches I have is 5 times bigger than this, it's amazing. It's amazing what your stories are doing and the ripple effect across the country. We were in Paris, Tony D back there, you know, we spoke on a panel, and it was really funny. We had Japan, England, Germany, Australia, and Tulsa was a keynote speaker, and I loved the faces of all the other panelists because they were just like, what is happening right now? I'm like, we're happening. USA BMX is happening. That's what's happening. You all are happening. So really, I just want to say thank you. I want to make sure as you leave here, I hear the stories. Everything here is about inspiration. And you all are inspiring an entire nation, whether you know it or not. Parks, I get to see it every day, and I just want to I wish I could GoPro it, right, and share those conversations with you. I also want to, I'd be remiss if I couldn't say this. I go in that Hall of Fame every day, and I'm just moved. But I also want to tell you there's people in that Hall of Fame that should be there, in my opinion. I want my entire team to stand up. They're all sitting over there, so guys, all stand up. We've got the racing team, freestyle team, headquarters team, our Arizona team. None of this would have happened without them. So, guys, thank you. BA, Amy, Bernie, the Anderson family, thank you. And I just say, I think really they say the key to growing and thriving business is surround yourself with experts much smarter than yourself, and making sure you're humble enough to know that and be okay with that. And that's truly what this is. I learn every day. Thank you for the stories, the conversations, everything you guys tell me at a race, on a phone call. If you send me an email and you gripe, that's okay. We learn from it. I promise you that. And my job is to make sure that our team is evolving. We've started a new group called Leadership ABA. So it's all the new up-and-comers, and we're teaching them. We're taking the wisdom of our team, making sure they get it, but we're also having them push us to evolve. So we're thinking differently about where we can go. So all I got to say is we are adjourned. Thank you so much. Onward and upward.